Freaka TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
It's been dark way too long in this place. That bright smile long gone been replaced. From ear to ear I see that fear in your face. Tell me when the last time you felt safe, cause there's some evil people in the streets.
What? Now when mic's on. I tried to open the show like 3 or 4 times and my voice just wasn't coming through. What's up, everybody? We're here for day 2 of the GSL. Day 1 was incredible, and today's a little bit different. No Zergs here.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time that we casted a round of 16 group without a Zerg and GSL Codes. It feels like it's been a minute, but no, we got 2 Terran, 2 Protoss, and I gotta say, out of all of the groups here in GSL Codes, starting at the round of 16, Group B kind of feels like the one that's the most difficult to call, so it should be a really exciting day.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. We have a ton of new maps. We are in the middle of a new meta because of the new patch. We're still unpacking what exactly this means for each of the races. It seems like we are going to be able to do a deep dive into Terran versus Protoss. We might only have Terran versus Protoss today, depending on how things go. Yeah, and I'm very curious to see what role the Cyclone's going to play.
Yeah, I think we were a little bit underwhelmed with a Cyclone there on day 1. We didn't see too much of it there from Maru in one of the biggest upsets, I think, in GSL history, probably. I mean, 3-time champ coming into Group A, and then the first player out, if I'm not mistaken, even getting upset by Scarlet in the first series of the day.
What a weird day to start this out.
It's great, though.
No Maru. Hey, I welcome it. I think it's actually kind of exciting. By the way, guys, you know, this event would not be possible without support from viewers like you. So if you can, please support the GSL. We don't have the same kind of publisher backing that we used to have in the past. So your support is very much appreciated. This is the longest lasting esports tournament ever.
It is.
Ever. In all games, we're still going strong. They just put Overwatch League to bed, and we're still here, so that's kind of cool. I mean, you know, it's really a lot of history here. You can see how far we've gotten. We're almost to the 30K goal. We just have one more little square to fill in.
One more square.
There's only one more little square, guys.
Actually, can't believe it. We're here on what
Mom,
dates you have Codes?
I need the last 3 numbers on the back of the credit card. We got to donate.
Yeah, 100% of those proceeds go straight to the prize pool supporting your favorite player, supporting Korean esports.
Yeah.
Could have done it without you guys. And hey, if you contribute on Patreon, I think the $10 tier is where you actually get access to the replays.
Right.
And it's in fact so quick. I was surprised because, you know, in previous seasons of GSL Codes, we didn't have too many Protoss players so far this year up until Season 3. So I was never incredibly keen on tuning in to those replays right from the get-go, but I think it was on the train home from GSL last night. I got the update from Patreon. It's like, the replays are live. You can go download them, and I was like, holy cow.
If you want to come see our show live, you are always welcome to. You got to buy a ticket. The URL is in the little lower third there below. You cannot get in without a ticket, so be sure to do that. You can show up at the venue and then buy a ticket on your phone there, but ideally do it ahead of time.
Yeah, and Group A, we have a Protoss and a Zerg emerging victorious. Creator and Solar both coming through with some really exciting games. Creator especially just kind of running a clinic on PvZ, really showing what is up on the new maps and the new meta. And now here in Group B, Cure, Stats, Nightmare, and Bunny, I feel like this one really can go any way. On paper, I give the edge to both of the Terrans, not because of the race they play, but Cure, I mean, he was just been so superb this year. Really only Maru has stopped him in Codes, and Maru now being out in Group A, it might be Cure's time to shine. Bunny as well, it feels like for years and years he's been trying to cement himself on the Mount Rushmore of Korean Terrans in the modern era, along with Cure, with Maru, with Byun. Hasn't quite been able to do it just yet, but he's looking so good. And only time will tell if Nightmare is going to finally have a breakout performance, if Stats is going to return to the peak form where he was getting consecutive World Championship Finals appearances years ago. But starting off today, Cure going to see if he can finally get that pin on his chest.
Yeah, you know, Cure is in incredible shape. I think this guy is a real threat to anybody here in GSL. He's really improved and I think even widened his range of play. And, you know, going up against Stats, I mean, for me, the most questions I had about this group really came down to Stats. Yeah. What kind of shape is he in? there were periods where Stats was the Protoss. And he was one of the Protoss players that would play in a very kind of conservative reaction-based style. Not aggressive, not cheesy, not timing attack-based, really more about growth, stability, and trying to keep a little bit further ahead until eventually that will all culminate into a moment where you have more sophisticated tech and it's your turn to attack. But you need to be very active to make that style work. And look, Stats has basically not been in the picture in many, many GSLs, so it's cool to have him back here now. I think we're going to have a much better idea of where he's at as we get into game one. But right now, Cure, you have to say, is the obvious favorite.
Yeah, Cure, in my opinion, has been the TVP GOAT for a very long time out here in Korea. Maru might be more well-rounded, but Cure is a specialist for years, has been an absolute killer in this matchup. But hey, we got new maps. It's a new patch. Is he going to be able to deliver the same level of TVP performance? Let's find out. Cure versus Stats on Golden Aura here in Group B.
Cure.
Whoa, he's sending an SCV out immediately.
Where is that guy going?
Guangdong Freaks. Stats.
Well, he sent 2 SCVs out now.
Oh, he did. Is this going to be a proxy T-Rex Marine or Marauder? What are we going to see from Cure?
I would guess Marauder, but let's see if he takes the gas or not.
Oh, wait. Stats is scouting tasteless. Oh, my goodness.
Hold up. Now, let's see. Does he change it? He's going to see it right away.
He's going to see both SCVs. Refinery coming down for Cure. Stats off to a great start. Let's see if he pulls probes from the main base. Yeah, looking at the minimap, it seems like 2 probes perhaps coming down here to try and harass.
This is one of those moments like, is this the exact right move or not? You know, the SCVs can repair. The barracks is pretty close to being done. Now with 2 probes, he does chase this away. Okay, the rush has been stopped. And immediately, Stats in an excellent position here. It looks like what Cure's trying to do is loop around and see if he can't maybe slide the SCV onto it. Maybe it'll randomly move to the other side and he can finish the building, but it doesn't look like it's going to be the case. And you got a choice. I mean, do you just cancel that and make something back at home, or do you keep trying to force the probe to fight and kill that and generate that threat?
Yeah, I think right now he can't really spend those minerals anywhere else. Even dropping an engineering bay briefly here at the natural expansion just to try and throw a wrench into the machine that is Stats. But I like him keeping that barracks alive for now because it is costing idle time from Stats. But really for Cure, the game plan, it's going to have to change. He's already building a Reaper back home, so whatever Marine or Marauder rush he might have planned from the beginning is already thwarted. Stats with some probes coming down to the natural expansion and that Zealot able to quickly get rid of that engineering base. Second gas now coming in. Cure just going to expand on the high ground, but really the rush and the game plan here for Cure in the early game on Golden Aura just falling completely flat.
Yeah, I mean, this has been such a chaotic game to start things off. I do like how Stats has approached it. I think the eBay was a smart move as well to throw that down and try to delay the Nexus. But this is going to be one of those games where whatever you practiced for this map is kind of out the window now. It's going to have a very unusual rhythm to it based off the interactions we had here at the very start. The command center is coming along just fine, and that should be landed over at the natural soon here. And I think the Nexus is going to finish just about when that command center would land, so they should be pretty even on expansions.
Yeah, the timing should be about the same, and given the factory placement up here with the reactor barracks, I think that Cure really wanted to reactor some Cyclones out, but unfortunately for him, Stats pushing the natural ramp here with a Zealot and an Adept. Should Cure go for that lift on the factory before he gets enough units out? Oh no, one of the Marines actually spawns on the wrong side of the barracks. Is going to be killed there by Stats, and you know, Cure, another thing, just not really going his way. I guarantee he wanted to land that factory as soon as possible, get the immediate value of those Cyclones as they fall off quite heavily, generally speaking, of the TVP matchup. But instead, just having to reactor some Marines to even secure the add-on right there might be another change of plans. As Stats really has the complete picture. He sees even the second barracks in the main base. He saw the command center on the high ground. He knows that he thwarted the early game rush. He has the Reaper wall on the main, so harassment not going to be much of an option here for Cure. This Reaper actually needs to be very careful. Oh, with a grenade!
He did a skateboard trick over the gateway, and now he's on the inside. It's taken out, but that was pretty cool to see anyways. You know, looking at the build that Stats is doing, this reminds me of the old Stats. He's basically going for a light defense. He's going to rely on his mechanics to shut down any medevac drops if they do come in. We don't have any medevacs inbound right now. And then just steadily get a third base up and running.
Yeah, and I like this opening here from Stats going into 2-gate, Blink, and a Robo, and then a third expansion. It's very safe. This is not the kind of bleak Robo tech that you see on 2 bases that MaxPax is famous for in Europe, where he tries to pull the Terran apart. Instead, Stats going back to really his bread and butter from when he was a peak player, this standard safe macro play. And really with the setup that Cure has right now, besides an early bio timing, I don't see him being able to cause many problems at all on Stats' side of the map, and that's kind of the way things go when your early game harassment or pressure or cheesy build gets thwarted. Is now Stats, it feels like with the scouting he has and also the momentum from that early game, can really just start to get all the pieces together much more quickly and much more safely than he otherwise would.
The Observer is going to glide through here and see that, in fact, the starport just started. So not any real options for Terran to harass here for a while. And instead, this is going to give Stats the ability to move out on the map. He doesn't have to be in a defensive position at all.
Yeah, especially considering that he scouts and he sees 1 Cyclone, no siege tanks. So there might be just some kind of angle where he can find value with these Blink Stalkers, as there really isn't anything to completely thwart them, but still just sitting on 2 gateways, getting that robotics bay, now adding on 2 additional gateways. This shouldn't be much more than light pressure, and, you know, Cure going for this 2-on-1 setup. It's unlikely that Stats is really going to be able to find damage, but frankly, he doesn't need to. He already has a Colossus coming online back at home. Thermal Lance is going to be soon underway. I'm curious to see when the Forge timing is going to be for Stats. Will he play a 1 or 2 Forge style?
2 Forges.
Yeah, 2 Forges coming through.
Go down over here. And so now comes the push. Now comes the moment where we're going to see Cure try to come out and try to do some damage. Stats is going to blink away and buy a little bit of time. And, I mean, it might just come down to a bit of a slugfest over here at the third base, and whether or not Stats has the right stuff to actually fight this. Look at how that Colossus comes out. It has to go all the way around the battery and the Nexus.
It's kind of a little funny maze right there. It reminds me of a UMS map where you're trying to, like, hide your villagers or something. But I like what Stats is doing right now. He's forcing a couple of stims out. He was able even to pick off, I think, 1 or 2 Marauders on this way through. And, yes, he did take some shield and hull damage on those Stalkers, but what he is doing is buying himself a lot of time, and now that Sentry and this Colossus should be able to take a good engagement. It is a little bit choky coming into this natural and third base area here for the Terran player, so Cure instead going to opt going for the drop into the main base. Stats not with too many units in the main, ready to deal with this, going to warp in some Zealots.
Yeah, I think Cure's actually going to back up. He realizes if he does go down there, he's just going to trade that out. There's 2 more medevacs inbound headed south. Could be a moment where you try to drop that third base just at 6 o'clock. We see Cure unloading over there. Cure's been very careful to not overcommit, to not overextend, knowing that Stats historically has had some of the best defense ever as a PvTer. And instead is going to try to take some free kills over here, destroys the Cybernetics core and the gateway. Is this drop going to come in over here?
I think it might, but Stats is in a great position. Only 3 Stalkers, so he can't focus down these medevacs very quickly. In fact, the drop is going to move on all the way here into the natural expansion, and we'll see if this opens up an angle for Cure to attack with the main army, but so far, Stats' defense just absolutely on point. The Widowmine connection does get 5 probes, but considering how many bio units fell, I think Stats is pretty happy with this. He's feeling confident. He's even taken a 4th base.
Yeah, I think he's doing a very good job here. Now, this 4th base is going to get denied. Kind of surprised he didn't take that triangle third we'd see most other players defend with. Instead, he's just hugging the very, very bottom of the map. But one little victory in there. He does get the kill on the Nexus.
Yeah, it's a nice victory for Cure. Really one of the first things to actually go his way in this match. But still, we know Cure, one of these players that is absolutely a macro beast when it comes to bio on the ground versus Protoss. Despite how bad the early game went for him and not really able to find too much damage, he's still ahead in supply quite considerably. I love this, dropping the 2 Widowmines. Just trying to see if he can get some value. Stats, of course, keenly aware of that, blinking away from the Widowmine shot, but Look at all this supply that Stats is starting to kind of bunker down in the main base with to prevent these drops from coming in. There's 2 medevacs behind his main base, and although they aren't getting damage done, that's Stalkers that are forced to retreat all the way back. And these are the kind of things that might lead to Cure being able to find an opening, whether it be attacking the natural expansion or the 4th.
Yeah, this is not an easy spot to control. There's medevacs lurking just outside the main. We see this little army north of this screenshot over here, as well as another smaller army here for Cure on the outside of the 4th base. And so far, so good here for Stats. He hasn't really been broken. The most that was ever pulled off here from the Terran was the forced cancel there on the 4th Nexus, but the game goes on. And I think we're going to have a Warp Prism come into the main. Now, with the amount of material that Terran has on the board outside of the base, you've got to imagine this could be a huge Warp-in that could do a lot of damage, but I don't see any Warp-in yet, just 4 Zealots being dropped off here.
No, Stats doesn't want to commit too many resources there, and a big medevac drop coming in. 3 full medevacs and 1 partly full into the main base, but Stats so good at splitting off his army, just going to come in, intercept this. Widowmines get taken out. Still only 3 Stalkers, so can't actually deal with the medevacs, and at the same time on Cure's side of the map, a little bit of damage being done. In fact, more than I was expecting. 12, 13 SCVs now getting taken down. This Warp Prism, as you said, Tasteless, there wasn't much of a Warp-in, but still finding really good value.
Yeah, getting 14 SCV kills. And by the way, although Stats is defending everything, you could really see how scary Cure is. Like, I think a lot of other Protoss players would have just been killed off in this process. Another drop comes down here, this time at the natural. Stats very much so ready to react, come down, defend, and clean it up.
And you can see how much respect Stats is giving to Cure during this game, as even when he went up to 4 bases, he was still sitting at less than 65 probes, only just now starting to eclipse that 70 probe mark with 4 more probes in production. He's playing a very low worker style because he knows the aggressive potential for Cure, even with a bad opening like the one that he had to start off this game, is very high. But now Stats, he's starting to come online. He's going to try and take map control back on his side of the map.
Okay, finally it's Stats' turn to move out. If Stats is going to win this game, it's going to be exactly in the way that we used to remember him winning games in. He's now cornering those medevacs, forcing them to pick up and take out, and I have to imagine he's going to go straight up north and start to try to pound that 3rd base. Meanwhile, a counterattack is set up down here. What exactly does Stats have? I see 2 disruptors.
Yeah, there's not very much. This might even force a recall unless the disruptor hit is big, gets a Marauder, maybe even a Marine, but that's not the connection that Stats needs to disable this safely. In fact, he's going to go for the base trade. He is committing on the other side of the map, and this might be a very funky situation, Tasteless. Army supply is almost dead even.
Well, you know, when you get a base trade like this, it's important to note that one player has more base.
Yeah.
So I think Stats can probably poke out the natural, recall into his main or the 3rd, and hold. And it would seem like that should be checkmate, because now Terran's going to have nothing to mine from other than the few fragments of minerals that are available inside that main base. The infantry are going to come in. We don't have that recall just yet.
No recall in the main base. In fact, these Colossus coming in from the 3rd, but they're unprotected, so maybe some Warp Prism micro, but no, instead, just one of the Colossus is going to fall. Disruptor comes in, big connection, gets 2 ghosts and a lot of bio. Both players bleeding out economies and infrastructure. 30+ workers going down on both sides. It's hard to say who's getting the better of this. I mean, Stats, yes, he does have more base, but look at the army supply now. Cure is starting to take a lead.
Yeah, Cure has actually chased out the army that was attacking the natural. It looks like it was all the SCVs and the remaining infantry. A lot of these gateways are unpowered. I thought Stats was going to take it, but all these gateways can't actually produce. And so I think we're going to see the big counterattack come down. By the way, this attack in the main still going on. I think eventually it'll be cleaned up, but what about this attack that's coming across the map now? He does have SCVs with this, so this is really going to end the game one way or the other very quickly.
Jesus, I am very concerned for Stats' position in this game right now. Coming into the main base, the entire army is lured by the drop in the main. Stats was struggling to get his infrastructure back online and secure, but that's going to lead to an opening here for Cure. Coming down with a reinforcing army will eliminate Stats' 4th base, and yes, Cure, he's only on 1 command center in the main right now. He's not really mining. He doesn't have much of an economy or production to speak of. This army's still very potent. Those Archons, though, the Ghosts are low on energy. They don't really have much EMP, and now Stats is on the attack.
Okay, the push is going to come in now. There's a lot of Archons. He does pick up the weak one, put it inside the Warp Prism. I think Cure might be able to take this. I think he does.
Yeah, those Archons, they all pop, and there's not much firepower left in this Protoss army. Battery Overcharge coming in on the third base will survive for the Colossus for now, but Cure just with overwhelming numbers here is going to barely edge out Stats in a really insane game here on Golden Aura.
Dude, this game is so sick. Cure's got this. He's going to win. GG. Dude, that was such a great game. Oh my God.
I mean, the killer instinct from Cure to recognize the situation and be like, you know what, I am going to fully commit with my army. That was calculated. He saw himself getting chased, and he had about a 30-second window where he can be like, you know what, I can pull my army back, try to fight Stats head on in the middle of the map, or I can move 70% of this force that I've assembled and just go for the base trade. And you were right, it was a scary moment for a while. The army supplies were even, Stats had more base, but Cure just knew exactly how to play that one. He had a great defensive position, especially with Widow Mines on the main base and the ramp. Was able to eliminate a lot of Stats' gateway unit counts, which dwindled his army supply, and then Stats' infrastructure at home, he could never get it back online. And Cure just barely finding the window to eke out a win, like pulling blood from a stone. I mean, that was incredible, considering the early game.
I thought for sure Stats wins the fight at the natural recalls, but then we just never saw the recall, and we were mostly watching the Terran attack the Protoss, but clearly Cure fought back at his natural and ended up chasing Stats away. And I think when those pylons all got turned off, or the gateways were turned off because the pylons were killed, it was a moment where there was just enough time for Cure to then come back with his counterattack and take it. Anyways, guys, we're going to go to game 2 as this best of 3 continues on.
Cure. Guangdong Freaks stats.
So, a couple takeaways from game 1. Cure, first of all, is insane.
Yeah.
This is the best TVPer we've got, but also Stats was able to make his style work. That's very important because I think that the way Stats plays, it's one of the harder styles to pull off. And you really have to have a sense of exactly where your opponent is all the time, defend, push it back, and have the patience and the fortitude to then know, okay, now it's my turn. Now I have the killing blow. And that's what Stats thought he had. I love this.
It's such high-quality printouts, man, every single time.
I love it.
All the way from Australia.
It's
wow.
crazy. Just a little while ago, you were walking around upside down in Australia. Now here you are in the GSL studio. Welcome.
It's a great point you make, though, Tails. I mean, Stats, really his Achilles heel since he came back to competing in StarCraft 2 since November from military service has been PBT for a long time. His win rate, especially against Korean Terrans. Oh, look at this. So many foreign fans coming out.
8,000 miles. From where, I wonder?
Is that also Australia? I feel like it might be, but they're saying miles.
Like,
do they measure?
No, that must be New Zealand. I'm really good at this. I know world measurements very well.
GeoGuessr world champion right here, Tasteless. But, yeah, Stats try to make that style work, and it absolutely did. But I'm a little bit worried because let's keep in mind that Cure had a dismal early game. He sent off 2 set CBs about as early as possible. He clearly had something planned, whether it was going to be 2X Marauder or some kind of, I mean, he had the gas, so it's certainly not Marines. Marauder or Reapers or some kind of crazy all-in plan. We'll never know because Stats derailed it so quickly. But still, Cure was able to fight back. And the fact that Stats was able to play that style, I think it doesn't exactly bode for the future of this series because he was so far ahead right from the get-go.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm curious now with Cure being able to execute a safer build at home. He's going for Hellions. He's doing this 1-1-1, getting a starport set up behind that command center. You know, if things don't get derailed for Cure, is Stats still going to be able to get to 3 bases, 2-4 bases with that safe defensive style, or is Cure going to find a way to, you know, start to pull them apart? But actually, this Adept getting into the main base. And a little bit of a mistake here by Cure, I gotta say. I mean, the SCV gets taken down, and yes, you will eventually clear up this Adept, but...
Yeah, that's a little bit annoying. You just get to see the player's hand now. That being said, I don't think that what Cure's doing is really like any kind of deceptive strategy. It's just developing as normal.
No, it's not too crazy. If this was something like the 2 or 3 Reapers with reactored Hellion timing attack that was popular pre-patch, then maybe it would be, you know, a disaster for this to get scouted because stats just throw down some batteries or potentially a wall of the natural and hold. But with just 2 Hellions and a Widow Mines, I don't think Cure minds too much, although it's still not the best opening he could have planned for. And Cure, excuse me, Stats going again for this 2 or 3 gateway Robo expand into a 3rd base. I like this defensive setup.
Yeah, this is very cool to see. Medevac now going to be out. The infamous Widow Mine drop is inbound here. Stats is generally pretty good at dealing with these, but we want to watch carefully because, you know, one thing that's so punishing about the Widow Mine drop is if you actually just aren't quite fast enough, you'll lose so many workers. It can be almost game-ending.
Oh, and it can absolutely be game-ending.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of my games.
I kind of undersold that. Yeah, it is time to leave the game.
Oh, I think that's actually, is that a Ravens? Which upgrade is this? It's a new patch. I don't know which one this one's coming in. All right, Widow Mine drop here in the main base. Stats playing this quite well, pulling 1 probe each to reveal these Widow Mines, but there are 4 of them, so you will have to pay the tax, so to speak, with idle time. But I think that's actually the Ravens' new disable ability coming through, getting research there in the tech lab, because I know that we have, interference matrix. I know the changes we have in the patch, but the icons are brand new to me because I haven't been.
The icon caught me off guard too. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, what?
Yeah, so if you haven't really been following the new patch, there is now an upgrade that has to be researched. Same cost as concussive shells. It's about a minute in research time. It's 50-50 minerals and gas, and it's a new upgrade that unlocks interference matrix, which was an ability that in pre-patch you did not have to pay to research. And
it came with the original purchase, basically.
Yeah, but you know, Protoss, especially in TVP early game, was so fragile. I mean, having 1 or 2 Ravens move across the map and just disable every key high-tech unit defensively for Protoss was kind of a nightmare from the Protoss perspective.
You'd even see the push come out where the Protoss tries to meet the Terran in the middle of the map and force a disable on their Colossus and then run back home and sit to safety. So yeah, I mean, let's see how this, you know, new way the game has to develop now pans out here. Stats is just doing stats things. He's staying back. He's ready to defend. By the way, that Widow Mine drop that we saw earlier, I think that is the absolute fair amount to lose and still be ahead as the Protoss. You're willing to give up 1 worker for each Widow Mine. The drop comes back in, and nice blinking here. That's going to be the end of this. So I would say overall Stats handled this very well. You know, if Stats is going to win this series, it's going to be from interactions that look like that.
Yeah, that's basically the minimum amount of damage you can sustain from a Widow Mine drop. You always got to pay the tax with 1 probe per Widow Mine in the early game, but besides that, Stats perfect. Even the follow-up drop, just being able to blink away and not lose any additional workers is fantastic for him. So now going up against a Cure that is a little bit more online than in the previous game. He hasn't had too many hiccups in his build compared to the Proxy 2Rex that got thwarted on the previous map. Stats still playing this defensive style very well, and now only seeing 1 Raven. I wonder if Stats is even have it on his radar, the interference matrix is researched, because oftentimes now, because it takes a whole minute to research that upgrade, you'll see Terrans go for 2 Ravens if they are going to do an interference matrix push. So this might actually catch Stats off guard. Force Field's going to try and come in, but Cure just stimming forward. Matrix comes in, Colossus on the right, and the one on the left both get sniped immediately. And I think Cure just broke the back of Stats.
Dude, that was insane. But you see how far he just right-clicked in there? He like didn't even try to center set micro once. It's like, no, I am going to get right underneath this Colossus. And now we can take out this pylon. Oh my God, is this game actually over? It might be.
I think it might be. That just disabled the majority of the production right now. I think Stats might only have 2 more gateways that are online, and
yeah,
even though these bio units are so low on HP, all right, that's a lot of Zealots actually. He might be able to stabilize, but still this damage is insane.
That's as close as you can get to decapitating a Protoss. That was insane. And I think that the follow-up attack will finish the Protoss off. The pylon just now starts, so it'll basically be finishing as this push comes in. Thermal Lance is going to finish once that pylon completes, but I think this may just not even be a game of control anymore. I mean, right now we don't have any robo units here, so Stim is just going to be too strong. And GG, Cure takes his 2-0.
Oh man, I love it. That was a sick play from Cure. I mean, Stats overextending a little bit there in the middle of the map. I think he wasn't expecting Cure to have the bravery to just make that dive, but Cure with the excellent read knows there was only a handful of force fields on that one sentry for Stats and just pounces on the army. And as you said, it was a complete decapitation move.
Crazy, man. Well, Cure just had that sense. You could see Stats was, I think, expecting more smaller attacks here and there. Didn't expect it to be a Widow Mine drop, then straight into a killer push. It's really important. I mean, it's obvious to say, but I gotta say, you gotta be in the right position here. You can't be chased down like that and killed. Guys, more PVT coming up next. We will be right back.
.33 lit up the phone. You let me see that you're all alone. You're like the boy, you make the moves. I fill the void for you. Shut up, don't speak. You complicate things and you know what I mean. Black tank top girl, you can put it on me. Little by little we give in, give in, give in, and you let go. Tell me that you don't swim. I can tell lies like you want me to. Gray area, your favorite. Gray area, your favorite. I found your book, I read your themes. Left a dent on my self-esteem. Your toothbrush is still on my sink. I used it once just to taste it. Shut up, don't speak. You complicate things and you know what I mean. Black tank top girl, you can put it on me. Little by little we give in, give in, give in, and you let go and you dive in and you tell me.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성 사이다 제로.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 터킨.
청량한 이 순간 실성 사이다로부터 실성 사이다. 똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 실성 사이다 제로. 청량한 이 순간 실성 사이다로부터 실성 사이다.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
경이롭고 책임감도 있고 대가를 바라고. 저도 말 안 해도 아시겠지만 저랑 똑같은 대답이 나올 것 같긴 해요. 악질한 사람들 등 쳐먹고 다니는 못된 짓은 다 할 것 같아요. 수밖에 없네. 뭔가 개구쟁이인지라.
Today's matchup. Cure. Stats. Nightmare. Bunny. Round of 16. Group B. Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. Up next, Nightmare versus Bunny. We were talking about this on the break state, but you were saying you think that Nightmare's got a pretty good shot here.
I could see Kira Nightmare advancing from this group. Now, Bunny, of course, is one of the best Terran players in the world. Certainly one of the best Terran players here in GSL, but I think a lot of people almost criminally undervalue Nightmare because you look at his games, especially if you're one of those fans that will watch him compete in things like online cups. He's actually starting to put it together. You know, mechanically, it feels like sometimes he's a little bit shaky, especially on stage here at GSL. I think perhaps he's still maybe getting nervous, maybe gets nervous on stage.
Sure.
I'm not quite sure exactly what's going on with that, but this is a guy that, you know, over a period of like 2 or 3 years earlier on in the GSL, he would always make it to Code S, and then he would always fall out. In the first group stage, he would either get last or third place in his group. He wouldn't advance on from that position, and so I think people have this kind of paradigm of Nightmare in their head that he's this player that's going to show up and then will not deliver time and time again. But I really think that he has a chance to break out. I believe that this guy has the raw skill to make it to a round of 8 performance or maybe even get a top 6 at a GSL coming up. And, you know, maybe this is finally the time. He's got some better success here. He's coming into the GSL now in its round of 16 and Code S. So in a way, he's getting top 16 and top 12 performances. He's looking better even in online play than he used to. And, you know, maybe a new patch, new maps can be kind of a resetting point for him, and this could be the beginning of Nightmare actually finding some success here in GSL. But to do that, he has to get through one of the best Terran players in the business, Bunny.
Yeah, you know, the thing with Bunny, too, is he's been here forever. I don't imagine his heart rate changes at all when he gets into that seat and gets into those games. I mean, GSL is his home. Nightmare is one of the players that, like, occasionally qualifies, but just by the fact that he hasn't qualified that much, he has not had as much exposure to some of these other environments. So we'll see if he's nervous this time. Every GSL is a moment to turn a new leaf. But yeah, more TVP for us as we unpack this matchup. Cure really giving us some insane games. Bunny's style is pretty different. Generally a little bit more straight up. It does seem like Cure's become more experimental in doing a lot of kind of weird builds, but then still staying very, very solid. Bunny actually gets up from his PC, so
I wonder if we might have some kind of PC issue or something going on with him. Even Nightmare on stage is just like, wait, what's going on over here?
Yeah, we have, he's over at Stats' computer, so I don't know.
He's like, wait, Stats, how do I beat this guy?
I see him moving the mouse, and so on Stats' PC, then he came back over here, so maybe there's something weird with his mouse. Maybe, maybe he's like, come here, there's this really good meme I got to show you before I start my match. Hold on.
He's like, hey, look at this replay of you losing to Cure. Didn't you get embarrassed right there? But no, yeah, it's probably some kind of some kind of issue. You know, maybe it's like a refresh rate or something, like especially if he's going in and checking Stats' mouse and like seeing how that's moving on the screen and then going back to his PC, maybe there's just something funky going on.
Yeah, so this happens every once in a while. The staff is usually pretty good at fixing it. We have all these backup PCs with everything already installed on there, so they'll just probably bring that out and change it. Or if they can fix it in the actual PC itself, then we'll do that instead. But I guess it's a mouse issue.
Yeah, it does seem to be that way, especially if he's going over to Stats and just kind of try to check out if everything feels the same on that computer.
Well,
it's like, am I going crazy?
He's like, am I an insane person? Let me just see this. Then it probably went to Stats' PC and says, okay, well, actually, we do have to do something about this.
Yeah, so it'll be a minute before we get into this series, but still, it should be a really good one, and I'm excited to potentially get some more kind of high-quality games in TVP in this new patch. I haven't been able to catch too many of them online, although there's been a lot of online cups. I feel like we haven't really gotten a chance to see a group quite like this one, with 2 Protoss and 2 Terran, where potentially we might have 5 PVTs by the end of the day and just really get to delve into what best of 3s look like with this new map setup. What does a new patch look like? I know a lot of people were speculating on the forums and on social media and also in Twitch chat about really like what is going to happen with Interference Matrix. Are we ever going to see it again? A lot of Terran players were saying that. A lot of the Protoss players were like, well, it's just concussive shell. It's not going to make any difference. Protoss players are still going to die to it. So, I mean, there's kind of a 2 sides to a coin thing with this patch. And we do need a lot of time to see where this patch is going to go. But just from my perspective, I have personally seen Terran players upset and Zerg players upset and Protoss players all upset with the patch. And if everybody is unhappy, I think that's kind of a good sign.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It comes from a place of love. What I've learned is that you got to let the games pan out. There is a whole, this is a very StarCraft thing too, and I think everybody watching is going to know what I'm talking about, but there is a culture of theory crafting. You go to Team Liquid or you go to Reddit, and you just see people kind of thinking through how this will affect the game and what the outcome will be. But, a lot of times the games do look different than what is going on in the kind of, I don't know, armchair philosopher expert, theorizing stuff is. So, today is kind of a blessing because you're right. We could end up actually having 5 TVPs, and especially with a new patch on these new maps, if we can just do a deep dive and just see how that matchup works, we're going to get a very good idea of what that is. I was just notified they are going to swap his PC out, so probably a couple more minutes, and then we'll be going into this game. But yeah, let the games pan out. Let's see where it goes, and after we've tested this all out, we'll have a better idea of what needs to be fixed, what does not need to be fixed. I think it's important for StarCraft. 2, unlike StarCraft 1, that this is a living game. I don't mean that in reference to like a dead game meme. I mean that like as in we need to be changing it and patching it and adjusting it. Some of these other esport titles like Smash Melee or StarCraft Brood War, the scene says no, keep it exactly as it is. We don't want to do that. But I welcome the patch and the changes, and then we get to see, okay, what works, what doesn't. And if something is drastically wrong, something very alarming that we start to see emerge from these games come up over and over again, then we can patch it again.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I like the approach. I like making small tweaks to the game, not any kind of overarching design changes, and just kind of try to fine-tune it and deliver better games. I mean, Cure, he did go for that Raven push with Interference Matrix in game number 2, I believe, there against Stats. And it still looks strong, and that's what you want it to be. You want it to be viable. You just want it to be a little bit less good, and maybe by the end of the day, we'll see at the end of this GSL, we might have a Protoss champion. We might have Protoss players breaking into top 4 as the meta gets figured out. And I think what we can all really say that we want to see is equal, maybe not necessarily perfectly equal representation, but more winning chances for everybody across the board.
Well, when you have a game with just 3 races or 3 factions, you do want to see each of them do well. It's different from like, let's take like Street Fighter as an example, right? Where there's a ton of characters. Some of them just won't be as good as others, and there's not a ton you can do about that. You can maybe try to nerf better characters or buff the weaker ones, but as long as there is a variety of characters in the game that are viable, that make for interesting matches, it's okay. With StarCraft, yeah, you do want to have each of the races be playable.
Yeah.
Each of the matchups have some semblance of balance, even if there are periods of time inside that matchup where part of that might be difficult. Like some matchups, early game was harder for one race than the other.
That's fine.
Or then it flips and mid game gets easier for one or the other. But yeah, and that's what the patch is for, is basically to try to tweak it so that you do end up with those outcomes.
Yeah, and I've been playing a ton of this patch, by the way.
I think I have streaming it.
I think I'm pretty close to 1,000 games, not just on this patch, but like the past month or like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I've been grinding. I truly have no life, but it's been a lot of fun.
Sometimes that's the way to do it, is to have no life and grind it out.
It's refreshing. Yeah. I'm kind of a little bit sad here in GSL Code S. Like, we've gone through, I think, 6 series now, and we haven't really seen all of the new maps. Some of them are kind of wonky.
Yeah.
You know, I like Raduset Station. I know I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. It's like some Swedish word. It's like Raduset or something. I feel like I'm going to sound stupid if I try to pronounce it the Swedish way, because I will not get it right. But there's some really unique designs in the game. It feels refreshing. You know, the patch, it made a couple of changes, but you can still feel the difference as you're playing the game. The new maps are a lot of fun. And, you know, it's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to eventually getting to that finals day here in GSL when we start to play some best of 5s, some best of 7s. We get to go a little bit deeper into this map pool, because I am a little bit afraid that over the course of the group stages here in the round of 16 and then the round of 8, that given the vetoes, we're going to be playing on more of the standard maps. Like, we were talking about this before we went live today, how on day 1 it kind of felt like we only saw maybe 3 or 4 total maps out of 9.
It will probably be like that for a little bit. It always seems like we'll have new kind of creative maps brought in, and the pro gamers will just avoid that.
Yeah,
because
you can't really blame them.
Well, no, I can't either, because when I play, I'm like, I want to be on maps that I'm comfortable on, right? And so you want to lean towards the maps that are, have ordinary, normal features. But yeah, when we get to best of 5s, best of 7s, that's when those maps are going to get forced onto the players. Yeah. Although we have a lot of maps for this season.
Yeah, 9 maps. 9 maps in total. I think
in the best of 3 process, the players get 3 map vetoes each.
Yeah, so I mean, that's part of the reason why we're kind of always vetoing down to basically the same maps, it feels. But I mean, it's still early to say. This is something that could evolve even as quickly as from the round of 16 to the round of 8, right? The patch has only been live for like a week and a half, 2 weeks on the Korean server. So it's very much something that's still getting figured out, but it's been really refreshing watching these games, especially having very good representation for Protoss, Terran, and Zerg this season. We got 6 Protoss, 5 Terran, 5 Zerg. Anytime you have like a 6-5-5 split with any of the races, that's going to be a lot of diverse content, and it's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. It's been really a blast. Like, day 1 was completely killer. I could not have anticipated Group A going the way that Group A went. And then here in Group B, as you said, the deep dive into PBT matchup, it's something to look forward to. We're only one series in.
It. Yeah, and I mean, I'm curious how different this one is going to look. One thing about Stats is the way that he plays does create a very specific type of game. Stats is, I mean, as far as my memory goes back, not the guy who's going to go 4-gate blink all in. He's not the guy that's going to do some kind of a weird cheese. He just likes to play a kind of development-oriented game. And honestly, he did a pretty good job against Cure, all things considered. Maybe not in Game 2, but in Game 1, I mean, he basically parried everything that Cure had. Cure had this miraculous counterattack that closed it out. But, Nightmare has a very different approach. So Bunny and Nightmare should create a pretty interesting best of 3 coming into this now.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Stats looked pretty good in that game number 1. Now, he did have a very nice start catching the proxy barracks on his side of the map early. So, I mean, you always have a little bit of momentum coming into a mid-game from that. But he did look solid. And actually, I was looking at some GSL replays because they came out so quick from the Patreon that I was doing some review of them yesterday on stream. And somebody asked the question, like, if you were to resume from replay with, like, different pro gamers, what are the odds that, like, Mario wins the all-in versus Scarlet in Game 2? And that was something that I actually hadn't really considered as, like, a thought experiment kind of thing. But going back to that game 1 with Stats versus Cure, if you put the players back into that situation, like, 100 times, how often is Stats actually winning that? And I feel like it's a lot closer to 50-50 than you might think. His position was not very bad against Cure. It's just Cure had the killer instinct to go for the base trade, and he knew how to navigate it defensively back at home very well, while also eliminating the infrastructure for Stats on his side of the map. And I feel like for Stats, getting into a situation like that one, even with the lead that he had, bodes well. Because in PBT, especially against Korean Terrans, since he has come back from military service, his win rate, it's kind of abysmal. PvP and PvZ, he's a lot more solid, although he's nowhere near the peak form that he had in the past. PBT has been a lot of trouble for him. And so going up against arguably the best TVP player in the world, certainly one of them in Cure, and game number 1 and looking that solid, getting up to 4 bases, maybe he actually can advance from a group that on paper looks challenging him just because of Bunny and Cure, right? So
Sure. I mean, when I looked at that game from Cure, one of my takeaways is that he understands how to look at priority. There are so many attacks happening, and I think there's this misconception that you'll have from people that watch a lot of StarCraft that what a pro gamer's doing is they're doing everything at once. That's not true. You can only be doing 1 or 2 things at a given time. Really, at the highest level, you're trying to figure out what takes priority. Where's your screen going to be? What are you going to micro? What are you going to set and forget and move on? And when I watch Cure's playback there, you can see he knows exactly which fight is more important to micro and eke out more damage. And even in that base trade, do you focus more on the defense there and holding that, or do you focus more on trying to carve your way into the main and kill everything off? And it seemed like he was able to go back and forth in between the two of them and do a pretty perfect game. And I think that's one of the reasons why he is so scary in this matchup is that there are ways to hit Protoss from multiple different angles and punish them. And Protoss is a race that it has access to mobility in some ways, but that's like with the recall, that's almost like a resource of its own. But most of the time in the matchup, if the Protoss isn't there, ready to directly counter, like the drop or the run by or whatever it's going to be, problems will arise. And so, I think we're actually going to go back into this game.
We're getting into it. All right. Yeah, I think the computer issue is resolved. Game is loading up.
Yes.
It's a long break, but I enjoy that little chat we had.
So I've been told Bunny had an issue with his mouse, and the studio provided him with another mouse. And so now we're ready to go in that game. Let's go. So it wasn't us. It was Bunny's equipment.
Oh, wait. It's a very early scout coming out from Nightmare.
Esports Nightmare.
It's like, I saw Cure try this.
he builds the gateway on the map. He's like, wait, this doesn't make a Marauder.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, they're flipped. Yeah. Okay, so then, that's actually
Gaming, Bunny.
Nightmare coming out immediately across the map.
And this is something that we've seen Hero do a lot, and it's starting to catch on, where you send this probe immediately across the map, and you don't even really go for proxy. You just try to get harassment in as early as possible. And oftentimes, Protoss players will follow this up with, a Zealot, 19 Nexus, and then we'll chrono out an Adept. And one of the benefits of having this probe out on the map this early is the harassment, although it seems like it might not be that substantial. If you hit a good number of SCVs, especially the SCVs that are building buildings and are closer to the natural expansion, if just one hit from that probe means the Adept 2-shots it instead of 3-shots it. It's the same way with Marines.
That's really big. And, yes, you can repair, but that doesn't really happen at the start of the game. It's so important that you get all your initial structures up and sort of get that rhythm going that, just doing these little chips of damage can actually pay off much later on.
A lot of fans coming down here. Really some good audiences.
From London. Welcome.
Welcome, everybody. People around the world.
I know.
Oh, look at that.
From
scary.
Switzerland. That's a terrifying bunny.
It's spooky season.
Or is
tasteless.
that bunny shot in the face? What's going on? Oh, those are fangs.
Oh, they're fangs. I also thought it was like blood coming out of the nose or something. I was like,
you thought
that's morbid.
It was a bunny with a bloody nose.
Who knows? Maybe Nightmare's going to really beat him up in this series. We'll have to wait and see.
So Nightmare's got his expansion up. Is going to have it up, excuse me. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah, it did not opt to go for the Zell, and actually going to chrono boost out a Stalker, so not exactly the opening I was expecting, but, with that probe, still getting a lot of early scouting information. If you want to go against a Terran player who can't be cheeky like Bunny is with these early game builds, it's a nice way of playing it, and we'll see exactly how Nightmare decides to navigate this one. Interestingly, he decided to wall in at the natural expansion, which is not something you see very often in PBT, partly because of what we're looking at right now in the main base. Having that gateway rallied so far away from the main mineral line means that Reapers often have a good avenue and a pretty large timing window where they can get damage done in the main, but Nightmare, his control is better than pretty much everybody watching at home right now, so not going to lose any probes. And actually, Look at this, a really fast armory coming in from Bunny. We might have some Cyclone shenanigans.
So we've wanted to see, you know, what does it look like with the changes with the Cyclone, and how exactly is it going to pan out. So this is a game where we have one made. You know, prior to the patch, the Cyclone was sort of like a Swiss Army knife unit, where you could do, you know, one or two of them could do a lot to defend, maybe even harass. Some of these little technical two-base pushes that we have come out for the Terran, the Cyclone was handy there, but now it seems like the Cyclone is more of a unit you would incorporate in with everything else.
Tasteless. This isn't going to be a Cyclone shenanigan. This is Drilling Claws Widow Mine drop.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh my goodness. When's the last time we casted a PVT where they went Drilling Claws off of...
This early? It's been a while.
And one of the changes from the patch is that Drilling Claws is actually slightly better. I don't think the burrow speed has changed. I'm pretty sure that is the same, but the unburrow speed has gotten a little bit quicker, and so there is some possibility that Bunny's going to come in with a Drilling Claws drop. And oh, Nightmare actually with a hallucinated Phoenix Scout. I don't think he saw the tech lab on the factory.
I don't think the vision's big enough. Yeah,
no,
he did not. So
that's big.
Yeah, just like literally a couple pixels further down, and it would have seen that. But for now, we're gonna have to see, you know, how quickly can Nightmare react. Like we were saying when we were buying time during that technical delay, you know, so much of the early game and mid game for Protoss is preemption. It's trying to stop what is going to be coming before it can really start. So we're going to see this push come out here. The upgrade is 5 seconds out, so it's going to be done as this drop comes in.
And Nightmare notably does not have a robotics facility yet.
Yeah,
it's just now going down. That armory not only does it unlock Drilling Claws, is going to burrow so quick. Oh, these are going to be big hits.
8, what?
And that's not the end of it either, Tasteless, because that Robo, we might have 2 more shots from those Widow Mines in the natural expansion. And Bunny's also taking a hidden base. This is like a Protoss build.
I'm actually a little bit mad watching this. This is, you can't do both of these things to get away with. This is wrong.
Oh, this is so cool. I love to see this from Bunny. I mean, Nightmare kind of took a gamble going for 2-gate blink expand like this. Now, he does have their good read on when these Widow Mine drops, or when these Widow Mines attacks, excuse me, are going to reset, so he doesn't lose any probes from the follow-up, but a lot of mining time is lost.
Oh, gosh. Oh, he's going to lurk just oh, I thought he was going to drop over the natural. He's going to go into the main instead. Here we go. How fast is Nightmare this time?
Oh, that might not be fast enough.
Oh.
So close.
Whoa, something just flew above the screen there. That was weird. Like a bicycle just flew by the camera. He does get the kill on the medevac. The observer's here, so the Widow Mines can't be the same threat they were before. But, I mean, dude, the lost mining time.
Yeah.
The workers that were killed, 8 were killed in that initial drop, which is huge. And there's this hidden base down here.
Kind of a crazy opening here from Bunny, but I got to commend the Nightmare up until this point. You know, the first, oh boy, hold that thought as the drop comes in again. Oh, I love this. He's following the probes as they run away into the main base. But look at the split coming in from Nightmare. That was very well done. Only 6 probes in total going down. That easily could have been double digits.
Where's the observer? Okay, it's going to pop out now. He should be able to kill off all of these Widow Mines. I don't know. Did he get the one in the main? He did. So keep in mind, this is really ingenious to do the hidden base when you're doing this build. First of all, your observers had to stay back because they had to detect. So you just don't have a lot of scouting. This has always been a feature with Protoss, by the way, is like if you can control the role of the observer, you're going to control how much they're going to be scouting on the map freely, right? So he's had to even keep the second observer back at home because he knows the threat of drops is so real. So when is this hidden base going to be scouted? Probably not for a while. It seemed like hidden bases weren't trending that much in StarCraft 2, but a couple of years ago they were getting more popular. It does seem like it's a cyclical thing. Like everybody starts to do it, then it becomes too commonplace, and then it goes away. But we're going to have another medevac come through here now. Blink is done, so we got to see, can he actually see this?
Yeah, he's going to see it. He was waiting in the wings. Very well played there by Nightmare in a really fast storm. Now, I got to commend Nightmare for his defense here against these. Oh, my goodness. That observer basically hit the cameraman. I feel like this is what,
if you're a pro observer, you have to be able to fly into debris as things get blown up.
There's probably pro observers from around the world just watching this, just like nodding their head. Well done,
wow,
buddy.
He's good.
But man, Nightmare did not take too much damage from that. He actually handled it quite well. The question is, with this mostly Blinkstalker force, he does have a lot of gateways done, but this is a dangerous timing window. He's investing a lot, getting Storm out, but it's not finished just yet, and there might be an angle of attack here for Buddy to come in with this bio timing and potentially get damage done, but also behind that, 4 command centers already coming online. Nightmare might have just enough to hold on here.
Yeah, he's gonna try to come in here and arc around this. Widowmine shots are pretty good. The Storm whiffs entirely.
Yeah, I feel like that was a Storm that he might have queued up before when the bio was moving and then thought he canceled, but instead it actually went through. So only 2 more Storms available with this army, but Nightmare has done a great job of rebounding from a build that almost certainly caught him off guard.
You know, the problem right now is that Nightmare is operating off incorrect information. And so he's assuming that Terran just now took a third. Terran's actually even on bases, and so this is one of those games where it can be extremely frustrating because you might lose and like literally not know what happened. And I've even seen some situations where pros won't look at the replay. They're too tilted, they'll go right back into the game and not actually realize what went wrong back there. But this time around, we have a push coming in. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility that that 4th base is, or the hidden base is scouted so late, it just looks like it's a 4th base. Yeah. And Nightmare never really figures out what's happening here. Bunny's at 164 supply and doesn't seem to have an army that can actually take a fight more than 1 or 2 Side Storms coming down.
Oh, that blink.
What?
That is some miscontrol right there from Nightmare.
Okay, quick hit the debris. Oh, all right.
Maybe a little bit of jitters, but I believe Nightmare was exactly as you said, caught off guard by the amount of bio that Bunny had.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
Because that 3rd base has certainly paid for itself by now. Now, the Storms for Nightmare coming through are pretty good in a vacuum, but the problem is Nightmare is not really able to engage off of these. So the medevacs, they've already basically healed the bio back up. Oh, EMP comes in. All those Templar nullified on the south side, and Bunny is about to run over this army from Nightmare.
Okay, Stim comes up, and I think we're almost to the end of this game. I mean, This is just such an overwhelming amount. You know, the Widow mine drop was good, but the hidden base was even better. And we're seeing the complexity of Nightmare's army just get diminished. Zealots are falling. We should be going into game 2 shortly here.
And Nightmare's got to be scratching his head a little bit with this one.
It's like, what? Why do you have so much stuff? I didn't miss any pylons. I made all the probes I needed. Even with my 8 probes that were killed early on, this doesn't seem like it makes any sense. So I think a really well planned out build. The fact that you do that with a mine drop controlled where the observer is and then come in with a move like this is really smart. GG, Bunny takes game 1 as the Terrans are just smashing the Protosses.
I mean, Kieran Bunny, just 2 of the best Terrans in the business, and I love what Buddy brought to the table in that game. That was not a build that I was expecting to see from him at all.
Yeah.
The Burrow Speed Widow Mine drop with Drilling Claw just coming in, gets a pretty reasonable amount of damage, but I think from Protoss's perspective, if you lose 8 probes to something that required an armory, required an upgrade, you eventually kill the Widow Mines, it's not the end of the world, you know? It could have gone so much worse for Nightmare.
The build was really good. Really good build.
The hidden base from Bunny, Nightmare, you know, he probably was feeling all right about his defense right there. You know, he's like, okay, I didn't take too much damage. I'm going for a really fast Storm. I'm taking this rapid 3rd base. There should be a window where I can get something done. But because the Observer was stuck at home and he didn't get scouting, he could not read. You'd actually see him laughing a little bit. I think he did go into the rewind and saw the hidden base there from Bunny, and he's like, okay, you got me. I got outsmarted a little bit here. That explains why my aggression didn't work. Let's see if he can come into Solaris here in game number 2 and bring it back.
Solar's map. See how they play on this.
Macherino Esports Nightmare. Mystery Gaming Bunny.
All right, some Bunny support here.
Up you win. I love that because of Bunny ears above him. We have some incredible signs this season. What happened?
I guess the question is, can Bunny make himself come out of a hat here?
So this is a very different build than we saw in game number 1 from Nightmare. You know, we were wondering if something shaky was going to happen with that early probe, but Nightmare actually coming in with the same insta-scout here against Bunny, but behind it send a second probe across the map. It is going to be proxying something in the third base, and it's a second gateway tasteless.
Yeah, so we're going to go with the old Max Packs build here.
I like this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got to wait and see how ready Bunny is for this. This build has always been quietly in the background of the many different openers that can happen. It is sort of a, I mean, it is kind of a known strat, but it has been less popular in Korea. So I don't know how prepped Bunny is for this. The way that Bunny's playing sets up nicely to punish, for the Protoss to punish the Terran with.
Oh, and Bunny's going to go Reaper after Marine, not Marine into Reactor. So there might be a little bit of an opportunity here should Bunny go for that Reactor follow-up behind the Reaper, because it's going to be a while until Bunny gets a significant number of Marines out to deal with this. Factory now coming down. Stalker already getting chrono. 2 Stalkers, in fact, both from the main base and the proxy. And I really think there's potential for Nightmare to get a lot done with these openings. And that Barracks, I do believe, is going to lift off and go for an add-on. Now Bunker is coming in as Bunny sees the Zealot. And here comes the Stalker. That Bunker's nowhere near completion. That Marine is just going to have to get traded out instantly here.
Yeah, the Zealot gets the kill over there. The Reaper does escape. All the SCVs are going to come down now.
Yeah, this is a very good reaction. Oh, from Bunny.
Ooh.
He tries to go for the surround there on the Stalker. He would have been able to get it, but just barely shy. These SCVs, a lot of them are going to go down, but the Bunker will eventually get up.
Yeah, of course, you know, the Reaper, not that threatening inside of a Bunker versus Stalkers, but it's held. The command center can be mined from. The question is, you know, how much more do you want to try to push this? There aren't SCVs down here to repair, so it seems like the game plan is basically to just keep putting pressure on here. One SCV is not enough to repair it, but as a 3rd infantry unit goes inside, I think the math gets a little bit more difficult to calculate. Is it going to be worth it to give up hull damage to try to maybe take that Bunker down?
Oh, and I love that move from Bunny. It's so small, but just poking out with a Reaper, hitting the Stalkers that are out of shield so they don't regenerate and they can't poke and prod again, as you said.
It's so smart.
And Bunny just brilliant here. That Cyclone should be able to chase down this Stalker. Very good in these early game engagements. It's really the new role of the Cyclone here in PBT, is that you're able to take trades like this one.
Pushes it right into where the gateway is.
And that's great value right there for the Cyclone.
I mean,
it is cheaper now. That's what it's designed to do, is try to handle these early gateway attacks in this matchup. And it does a great job of anchoring the defense there for Bunny. And now we're kind of going into a macro game without either player being too far ahead or behind. I mean, it's kind of a funky opening, not something that we see too much here on the new patch. I would give a slight edge to Bunny, but Nightmare certainly has some chances. He got a good number of SCVs there. He was able to kill, I think, was it what, 1 or maybe even 2 Marines in the early game, so certainly did get some value, but Bunny, especially after picking off 2 Stalkers with that Cyclone, really solidifying his position back at home.
Yeah, Reaper comes up here now. Any probe hits you can get are going to be worth it. Can you get a kill on this one, or is it going to get to the battery in time? It does not. So 2 kills, that's actually pretty big. The gateway, meanwhile, is going to fall. No surprises there. The question now is there counterplay? Can the Terran try to come out on the map and really do some damage? Or is it a more wise decision to basically stay back and power up as the Terran?
Other barracks in production here for Bunny. I'm curious as to whether that is the 2nd or the 3rd racks coming in. Haven't gotten a shot of the Terran production setup for a while. I see now that the starport is done. Medevac coming across the map, so it seems like it was kind of a 1-1-1 here into this Medevac in. Oh, this is a dangerous situation. No, that Medevac's not going to unload, and 5 Stalkers beat these 2 Cyclones. So Nightmare, with some great instinct there, moving across the map, catches a ton of supply, and even using the acceleration zone there
to
take out the Cyclone. You can feel kind of the momentum shifting a little bit, where Bunny, after that early game value he got on defense with the Cyclone, was feeling pretty good, but now with Blink complete and Nightmare catching, I mean, what was that, 14 supply and some critical high-tech units. from Bunny. He has the real opportunity to get damage done. There's only 4 Marines and 1 Siege Tank, and that Siege Tank is going to have to really anchor the defense here for Bunny. Look at these Marines also very low on HP.
Yeah, he's continuing to chip away, killing off SCVs where he can.
Oh, that's
the
still
tank
in range.
siege mode, yeah, he's going to have to figure out how much longer he wants to try to stay over in that area. The War Prism just came out. There's more Stalkers coming up. You know, you could just try to blink up into the main.
Oh, this is 4-gate blink as well.
Yeah.
You know, that might have been enough damage, killing those Cyclones and those 10 Marines. That Nightmare might be able to trade quite well. Oh, Interference Matrix again. Researched here by Bunny. Seeing both him and Kier opt for that very early here with these Raven openings. But the Stalker is coming in.
Okay, so these Stalkers are coming up, and they go right on top of the tank.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage being done.
It's kind of a weird interaction there where he scooped up the rest of the Stalkers.
Now you see Hero really, him and MaxPax are kind of the pioneers of this. MaxPax in Europe certainly was the player that popularized this the most, but Hero has been doing a ton of this 4-gate blink stuff himself. And once you get this critical mass of Stalkers, I believe it is 11 to one-shot a Siege Tank like that, you can do some really tricky micro, like blinking forward, sniping the Siege Tank, and then basically using the Warp Prism as a second blink. And oh my goodness, the Raven gets caught out as well. And that might be the breaking point. There's only 2 Siege Tanks right now here for Nightmare. Bunny is still heavily committed. Observer gets sniped out. There is no third Nexus for Bunny just yet, or for Nightmare, excuse me, just yet. Charge gets started, probe cut, and more gateways coming down, Tasteless.
Yeah.
He's going to go for the killing move.
Yeah, he's going to try to blink in here. As long as the tank count is low, you can't have them spread out where they covers everything. So he blinks up there. He now has the entire army. Now the blinks are going to be staggered because he didn't do this all at once, so it's a little bit harder to dive. You have to wait for the entire cooldown to reset. But it looks like instead he can make these Zealots to run in here and tank damage.
Oh, this is almost like a push from Brood War. The Zealots trying to drop on the Siege Tanks here.
Like the Bulldog where you drop the Zealots on top of the tank. That's exactly what he's doing. The infantry are going to come back here and fight. A lot of SCVs are going down. 14 now, 17 total have been killed as a recall saves the remainder of those Stalkers.
And I think overall that's a pretty good trade there for Nightmare. He got a lot of the damage done on Bunny's side of the map, 20 SCVs in total going down. Oh, and Bunny has a bad read on this game. Oftentimes, if you go for this 4-gate MaxPax style, you take a third base behind it, you play very mineral heavy, and you try to macro. That is not what Nightmare's doing. He's going into charge, he's building more Stalkers, he's building a lot of gateways back at home, and so Bunny might actually be falling into a trap. We'll have to see what the production setup is going to be here for Nightmare. If he has one big warp in, maybe he can get something done, but actually Bunny.
I mean, he's got a lot. You know, the Stalkers are just not
SCV
quite
pull.
trading out.
Yeah, this changes the dynamic a ton. You can see Nightmare really trying to set up a trap almost against Bunny, but with the SCV pull, I think that might give enough bulk to this force for Bunny to, in fact, get a lot of damage done on the Protoss side of the map.
The force field is not ideal. You can see Bunny's going to tear down the rocks and open this wide up. And, I mean, again, the Stalker's taking a ton of damage. The SCV's coming to the front to soak. The tanks are still in range here. I mean, is it possible for Nightmare to hang on? I'm not so sure.
He might have bled out a little bit too much. This SCV pull is so smart from Bunny. So much HP was absorbed by those SCVs. If it was just the Marines, then maybe Nightmare would be in a good position to hold. But instead, despite going for this, 7-gate with charge and blink style, he's not getting too much done. But look at Bunny's side of the map. There is literally no economy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to take this Nexus out. There's no way to stop that. 2 Archons finished, so I don't even know what's mining back at home right now for Bunny. I mean, he looks like he's really hurting. He could still drop mules here. A scan is going to shell that Zealot. You know, if he just gets a siege tank a little bit closer, he can start to hit all these units that are on the low ground just behind the natural.
Well, it's just such a dynamic fight right now. Nightmare has to keep those sentries alive, try and get force fields or guardian shields with value. He's still supply blocked. He's lost so many pylons and the Nexus back at home. I love that force field just eliminating
so sick.
The surface area there for the Marines. He's going to blink out the Stalkers and just try to defend the main.
But the's nothing that, oh, he's going to recall that. I was about to say there's nothing he can do. I was wrong. So there are, basically there's nothing mining in the main. There are a couple patches left over here. So it is still possible for Nightmare to hold this.
Yeah, Nightmare literally just has to hold this army. If he can defend this push, he wins the game.
It seems like if he was going to attack, he should have done it before the tank sieged up.
Well, the thing is, he was supply bot for so much time. He wanted to get at least one more warp in. And also, keep in mind, with all these stims, these medevacs very low on energy, so the healing won't be quite as substantial in this fight.
That is true.
He's just trying to find the perfect moment to come in. It's do or die right now for Nightmare, and here he comes, Tasteless.
Here we go. The tank at the bottom is going to siege up. He goes right on top of that first tank. The second tank falls. Zealot's coming in here from behind. The Archon falls, and it's just going to be this infantry. Again, not a lot to heal here. I think he barely wins this. I think Terran barely takes this fight. Hold on.
Zealot's more warping in. These are either solo on HP, but there's only 2 Stalkers left.
Oh my God, I think that's it. That's game. GG.
Wow.
Whoa.
What a game.
That was such a great game.
And I gotta give so many props there to Bunny. If he doesn't pull the SCVs with that push, he loses that game. Those Marines, the tanks, will not have enough sustain to actually make that push happen, but they absorbed so much of the damage there from Nightmare that he was just barely able to thread the needle. Those Marines had almost no HP left. And in an insane 0 economy game there for Bunny, he was able to just barely push through and defeat Nightmare. What a crazy PBT.
It was wild. The fact that he pushed through on a 7-gate 2-base Protoss as well. Like when I saw him coming out, I'm like, no, this literally can't work, right?
Yeah, it felt like he had the wrong read, but you know what? If you pull those SCVs, you actually can go toe-to-toe with a Protoss that is powering on those 2 bases.
So this means we're going to be doing a brief exodus from PVT. It's going to be 2 Terrans in a mirror matchup, then 2 Protosses in a mirror matchup. And then, guys, don't worry, because no matter who wins where, we're going to have a PVT again to close the show out.
And what a fun start to Group B here. Both Terrans showcasing some really cool builds. I love the way that Bunny played in this one. I have to see what he has in store for us in TVT later.
All right, guys, we're going to be going to a break in a second here. When we come back, the winner's match to see which of these 2 Terrans is going to be advancing into the next round. We'll be right back.
Taste like whiskey, every move. Time, the minutes quickly passing by. Wanna slip away into the night, but I don't need to wake up by your side. Ships in the night. I wanna be the devil on your shoulder. I wanna be the angel when it's over. You'll get lucky like
anytime, any place. Yeah. Anybody, any day. You don't really want it like I got it. You don't want it. I'm a monster with a problem. I'm a heavy hitter on time when I deliver. You can cry a river, I don't share no feelings with you. Break it down with my body shots, shut down your liver. I'm rugged and I'm raw, call me the grave digger. If you want it, come and get it. I'm ready for whoever, you can bring your whole crew. I body all of y'all together. Anytime, any place. What? Anytime, any place. Anybody, it don't matter. Anywhere, any day. What? Anytime, any place. Anytime, any place. Where you at? Anybody, it don't matter. Any day. Anytime, any place. Yeah, you know. Anybody, right here. Any day. Anybody. Anytime. Yeah. You're the tiger, I'm a fighter. Yeah, I'm the one that's on fire. They gotta honor me, call me by your sire. I'm the truth with the proof, they a goddamn liar. Headhunter, underdog on the come up. I always stand my ground, I dare you to run up. I run and done ya, move like the thunder. The world will know my name, I'm a world wonder. Anytime, any place. What? Anytime, any place. Anybody, it don't matter. Anywhere, any day.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내가
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그 너는 푸른
칠성사이다. 똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내가
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그 너는 푸른
칠성사이다.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
정의롭고 책임감도 있고 대가를 바라고. 저도 말 안 해도 아시겠지만 저랑 똑같은 대답이 나올 것 같긴 해요. 악질한 사람들 등 쳐먹고 다니는 못된 짓은 다 할 것 같아요. 수밖에 없네 뭔가 개구쟁이인지라. 좀 놀면서 지냈던 것 같아요. 평소에 워낙 대회들이 많아서 이번에 온라인 대회가 있지만 편하게 하려고 친구들이랑 술도 마시고 좀 맛있는 것도 먹고 하면서.
GSL 시즌2 이후로 오랜만인데 저는 그동안 고양이들이랑 같이 집에서 평범하게 지냈습니다.
팀리그 예선이 있어가지고 팀리그 예선에 좀 집중하면서 연습 다시 열심히 하고 있고요. GSL 시즌3만 좀 기다리면서 있었어요.
시즌2를 건너뛰어가지고 되게 오랜만에 다시 경기장 왔는데 시즌2 때도 꼭 오고 싶었는데 떨어져서 너무 아쉬웠었고 떨어지고 나서는 좀 시즌3까지 시간이 많이 남아가지고 할 게 많이 없더라고요. 그동안 스타2만이 아닌 다른 게임들도 많이 하고 가족들하고도 여행 다녀오고 그러면서 지내고 있었습니다.
원래 제가 저그전이 좀 원래 부족했는데 아직 제가 극복을 못한 것 같고 다음에 우승하려면 좀 더 연습을 열심히 하고 후반 운영 연습도 많이 해야 되고 너무 허무하더라고. 한순간에 황금 차이가 이렇게 갈리는 것 같아가지고
그 시즌2 때부터 오프라인으로 경기가 바뀌었잖아요. 그래서 너무 경기장에서 경기 해보고 싶어서 오랜만에 뚫고 싶어서 정말 열심히 했는데 시즌2에서는 경기 결과가 나오지 않았더라고요. 그래서 방송 키는 것도 조금 막 부끄러울 정도로 좀 상실이 좀 갔었죠. 좀. 네.
시즌1은 마무리가 너무 불만족스러웠어가지고 좀 아쉬운 느낌이 있고 시즌2는 뭐 말할 것도 없이 좀 아쉬운 경기력이었어가지고 시즌3는 좀 다른 마음으로 좀 준비하고 있어요.
1 때는 뭔가 기량이 많이 안 나왔고 2 때는 기량은 나왔지만 노련함이 부족한 그런 느낌이 들었어요. 성주 좀 넓어졌으면 좋겠다. 맨날 저랑 만나니까 그때 2번 다 성주한테 져가지고 이번엔 좀 빨리 좀 떨어뜨려줬으면 좋겠네요.
반까마귀부터 시작해가지고 좀 유령이 갖춰지고 나서부터의 테란전을 상대하는 게 너무 힘들었었어요. 막상 대회에서도 테란이 엄청 강한 모습을 보이더라고요. 프로토스도 대회에서 많이 보고 싶다라는 생각을 했는데 그게 쉽지 않더라고요.
저는 딱 테란 올라가라고 대엽이 형이랑 우기도 사실 잘해가지고 준비를 좀 열심히 해야 될 것 같아요.
저도 어려운데 이게 일단 대엽이 형도 이제 폼이 조금 올라오신 것 같고 우기도 지금 굉장히 잘하거든요. 전님도 이기고 올라왔고 예선 때 재선이도 원래 태태전 잘했어가지고 저도 힘들 것 같아요. 조가 무서운 형 2명이 있어가지고 자주 져가지고 원래도 준비 잘하면 올라갈 것 같아요.
그날 컨디션에 따라 또 다를 것 같고 잘하는 저그들이나 테란들 이기는 게 힘들다라고 생각이 들어가지고 일단 8강만 올라가도 되게 기적일 것 같아요. 네.
Today's matchup. Cure. Stats. Nightmare. Bunny. Round of 16. Group B. Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
And we're back. Cure vs. Bunny coming up next. We're going to go into mirror matchups now and see what it looks like with the new patch in the mirror matchups. You know, I think a lot of times when we have big changes in the game, the conversation's always dominated by which race is going to beat which race. But like as an example, like the Cyclone TVT played a huge role in the early to mid game in that matchup. A lot of different rushes were centered around using those abilities for the Cyclone. What's it going to look like now?
Yeah, the range, it's a lot more reduced than it was in the past. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 16 range or something crazy pre-patch. It was like a siege tank basically when it had max vision. And so now, you know, maybe there are some different harassment options in TET that you can open up with because your opponent doesn't have that Cyclone range.
Yeah,
to deflect some starport. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
At the same time, the Cyclone, it's for its cost, pretty good at fighting straight up, especially in the early game. So, you know, there's a bit of a yin and yang there in terms of the Cyclone potentially being better offensively in some situations, but worse in some, and certainly worse, I think, overall defensively, but yeah, certainly going to be a shakeup in TVT.
All right, guys, we're going to go into this best of 3 now. The winner goes on to the round of 8 to GSL.
Cure. Mystery Gaming, Bunny.
It's cool to see how well Bunny prepared for this group, man. I mean, that game 1 build, the burrowed, or drilling claws, excuse me, Widow Mine drop into like a hidden third base. We were talking about this on the break, how it all synergizes so well.
Yeah.
It's so smart. You have the armory for the cloaked Widow Mines, which delays the observer coming across the map, and then you go for the third base. Oh, love from the USA! A lot of support for Bunny here in the audience. I mean, it's such a big brain play
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like if SOS played Terran, that's the kind of build he would be doing all of the time, which is a huge compliment. And so I'm really wondering what Bunny has cooked up for us here in TVT, because, you know, certainly coming into this group, I believe Bunny was him who in the interview said, it feels like this group has been, you know, architectured for 2 Terrans to advance, just because Bunny and Cure are both so good at TVP.
Well, yeah, and this I think is less even just about that matchup. They perform so well this year.
Yeah, both of them have top 4s. I think Cure actually with a top 2 and a top 4, both times losing to Maru. So both of them must have predicted that they will be facing each other in the winner's match with a high probability. And so,
and you know, with Maru out of the picture, for each side, this is the Terran to beat, and maybe you don't have to worry about that matchup for a while.
It's a very good point. I mean, besides this, we have what, I think maybe Byun and Gumiho is the scariest possible Terrans. Gumiho always been terrifying in TVT. Byun kind of a wild card in terms of that matchup, but absolutely Bunny and Cure kind of each other's nemesis right now, given that Maru is out of the picture.
Okay, so the builds right now very mirrored, although we do have the Reaper actually coming out. It does scout and confirm the command center. Doesn't even try, by the way, to kill the SCV. Stays back, so it's not clear if Cure is aware that that Reaper came by there or not. You know, the factory being swapped on over here for the add-on, and it's going to be 2 Cyclones. So let's see how this looks. Are we going to have aggression right away? And also, how many Cyclones are going to be made? You know, previously it was hard to get too many Cyclones. They kind of had this funny role where they were essential in the early game, and then didn't really add in, you know, wasn't something you could build up and add more of them into your army as easily here.
Yeah, we had some, incredibly niche builds, I think, especially in TVZ, where you would go for effectively a battle mech all-in with Cyclones, and beyond that, we never really saw them massed too much. But, you know, Cure overall has been one of the players, I think, that has been using, at least in Korea, the new Cyclone the most. He played a best-of-5 against Serral recently, and although that is a TVZ matchup instead of a TVT matchup, he was absolutely keen on going for a lot of battle mech pressure with Cyclones. It seems like this is a unit that he's very comfortable with, that he has a lot of faith in the potential of, and with a 4 Cyclone opening like this one, I'm very curious exactly what he's going to be gunning for here against Bunny, because, you know, it is a very new patch.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just see, you know, oh, hold on. They're going to be moving out.
Oh, this has to favor Cure, right?
I would think so. All right, here we go. Now, with the 1 Cyclone getting stuck in the front, okay, a bit of a trade here. Now, the punishing part is that you can't run away from the Cyclone. It's just, things are going to get killed. The Marines, they may have to flee up the ramp. Let's see how they fare. Yeah, and you can see that the kiting is real. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, being able to extend to a little bit more range there with the auto lock on, now having no cooldown, so much value.
The only question I have is, why didn't you make 6 of these instead of 4? My God, this is like looking so good. The value. I mean, there's a point where, like, I was going to say now the medevac gets to be the target, and as long as he keeps him alive.
That was maybe 5 or 6 Marines going down. 7, in fact. So almost a full medevac of Marines getting eliminated. 600 resource value difference.
And Cure only lost 2 Cyclones and a Reaper.
Yeah.
And the Reaper is forgettable, right? Those are going to go back. They can be repaired. Did you hear the Terran can repair their units?
I knew.
How's that fair? Blizzard.
It's insane.
And I would imagine this is just going to be a setup for another attack later on. We've got tanks now being made over here for Cure. We did see a tank pop out for Bunny as well. But, like, now we've got 2 tanks. Who's to say he couldn't just try to come in here and maybe even push the natural, maybe not even just deny the 3rd, but go further along here.
And if I'm not mistaken, Interference Matrix was already researched by Cure for those 2 Ravens, and Bunny now getting it himself. Building, I believe, the 2nd Raven, although we haven't had a shot of his full army count in a while. Might just be the 1. And another command center coming in, and Bunny actually coming in. Is this an empty medevac? What am I looking at here? Is he just scouting? I'm so curious.
Yeah, I think literally. Well, hey, it baited it out.
Oh, yeah,
He's
that's
like, oh,
smart.
no, my medevac, I can't unload my stuff. Not really.
A nice little play there by Bunny. I like that, but still, this push coming in from Cure is really quite scary, and he's also pumping Vikings behind this, so there is sustain should he decide to siege outside of the natural expansion there for Bunny. You know, air superiority seems to be absolutely in Cure's favor should the game decide to go that way. And Cure right now really fixating on this empty medevac, but...
Well, I mean, you know, it's working for Bunny. He's bought an incredible amount of time here for a basically irrelevant empty unit. So think of this less as a medevac lost and just the actual cost of that to delay a full-on engagement from Cure, who is substantially in the lead already.
And that's going to allow Bunny to set up in this position that's much more easily defended outside of the natural expansion, leading into the third base. And actually 3 Ravens in total here for Bunny. So both players with an interference matrix research will have a lot of disables at their disposal. They got to think that might synergize quite well with the 2 Cyclones that are remaining from the early game. Cure absolutely sizing this up. Here he comes. Disables coming in. Couple of big shots coming in from Bunny siege tanks, though.
Feels like it would have been better to disable the top and the bottom tank instead of the 2 in the middle, but either way, this is going to be a fight that, yeah, I mean, wouldn't you want to disable the tanks that are further away? That you're going to be the last ones to kill, right? I don't know.
Yeah, that was.
I don't want to nitpick too much, but when I looked at that fight, I thought, like, no, this doesn't look right at all.
That did seem a little bit funky, and I really like the big tank shots coming in from Bunny at the start of that engagement. I mean, that was a ton of damage. And Cure perhaps not sizing it up completely correctly, but, you know, in the new patch, trying to make plays with new Cyclones just like this, you know, it is going to be kind of an adjustment period for these players in terms of eyeballing these fights and being able to make the correct judgment call of whether I go in or I do not.
Here we go. Another push comes in. And, you know, the thing is, he's still got, Cure still has the majority of his tanks. He can keep reinforcing this. So, like, the problem remains here for Bunny is that he's not able to deal with the firepower that's being exhibited here from Cure. And, yeah, look, 1 tank gets down here, suddenly you don't have a third base anymore.
SCV's almost taking out the Cyclone.
All right, here we go.
Small SCV pull coming in as Bunny's going to try and get out of this position, but I think Cure might have just actually severed the head.
GG. That was insane.
Yeah, I didn't really give enough credit to the follow-up push there from Cure, because coming into that push, I was really fixated on kind of the weird engagement with the disables on the siege tanks, and I was like,
didn't that seem wrong? Like, you disabled the 2 in the middle. It's like, well, you're not going to, those are going to be the first to die when you come in. Shouldn't you get the ones that are further back?
But I guess Cure was still able to take out enough of the key units there for Bunny that, with the reinforcements coming in, you know, as long as you're able to separate the natural expansion from the third base in that way, and then with the Ravens come through with 1 more disable and just really kill the last remaining high-value siege tank for Bunny, Cure is able to come through with a decapitating blow and to really just deliver another 1-2 punch. The same way that we saw him do against Stats in the first series, he's now doing it here in TBT against Bunny.
All right, we're going to go to Oceanborn. Let's see if Bunny can play a better game. Cure with a strong opening, a deep understanding of how to just leverage the Cyclones early on, and a very straight up push right after that. Good luck, Bunny.
Cure. Mystery Gaming, Bunny.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when I see that push come out in that last game with the Cyclones, I'm thinking, okay, why would you not do that build now?
It's really good.
But then I don't know what it's going to look like if they're both doing the same thing here. But yeah, I mean, the Cyclone clearly able to just kind of, instead of being this handy unit that's sort of a fix-all for like harass and maybe it could snipe something here or there, it's just got the ability to push and the ability to kite. I remember the very first time I used a Cyclone at BlizzCon, like, you know, forever ago, getting to play the game before the game was out. And that was my initial takeaway, was like, damn, this thing can move and shoot so much better than anything else in the game. And it's still true.
Winners TV.
TV.
Oh, Zombie Grub. What's up?
Zambigram.
Hashtag Terran patch.
But yeah, I mean, you saw in that fight back there, he basically was able to kill off enough Marines that the push was just easy to do from there. You know, he just killed off enough of the infantry that there was nothing to work with.
Yeah, the way that the builds lined up just went heavily in favor of Cure. Oh my goodness, we flew all the way to Korea for the Cure. I love this. Look at Dr. Cure right there. Wait, so wait, that was Cure versus Bunny. This is the winner's match. It's not like the opening match of the series. Are these fans coming in with like cheerfuls prepared for all the different possible circumstances?
You've got how many possible types of GSLs can we have that you've got to have a cheerful for each one?
Oh, that's so cool. Cheerful game this season for the fans has been top tier.
Great. Well, I'm so glad, you know, we started this year off in kind of a crappy situation where we didn't have live audience for GSL, but once the fans spoke out and Afrika brought it back to the studio, man, it's been so good to see people down here enjoying the games and making these fun signs and everything. So yeah, I mean, I'm very happy to see it. Now, in this game, look, we have a Hellion being made now here for Cure. I've been wondering if he's just going to do the same thing as he did in the game before. Sometimes when there's a new patch, you could just be running a build that's just better, and any tournament player might not be able to, you know, intuit how to deal with that.
Oh, 2 Reapers coming into the main base right now. Only 1 Marine and 1 Reaper. We'll see if Cure can get the key picks. Damn, nice value. Cure is so good with his control.
Yeah, there really is an art form to using those grenades to push things away, but then sometimes to also push things towards you.
Oh, he's so... Wait, body blocked the SCV!
My God, that was sick.
Put that in a highlight reel.
That was insane.
He loses nothing. He body blocks the SCV trying to get into the bunker.
It was like a Dota game, but sped up to an insane amount, but he did get the body block off, yeah.
And you know what the best part about that, too, is he recognized he could make that play because he sent the Reapers into the main base, and he killed the Marine that was in the bunker.
Cure is looking so scary here.
He always does. This has really been his season to kind of come online. I mean, just top 4 after top 4, only really thwarted by Maru, who won both Code S's to kick off the year. And now that Maru's out of the picture, you got to really wonder, I mean, looking at the form that Cure is in, how far he can go. Is he going to be a GSL champion before the end of this year? I mean, he very well might. With the way that he's playing, the builds that he's showcasing, and just, you know, the instinct on the moves. I feel like Cure, more than pretty much every other Terran, is so good at just recognizing situations where he can go for killing blows in a variety of different matchups. We saw it against Stats in the very first series, and then we saw it there against Bunny in a situation that, frankly, I was skeptical that he was actually going to be able to sever the head and just kill Bunny outright there between the natural and the third base with that first engagement. But Cure obviously has a very deep insight into the way these matchups work, despite there being a new patch on these units getting shifted around a little bit in terms of power. He just could recognize the situation and almost see through the matrix and be like, okay, I take this first step. I'm setting up for a push later in the game or a setup later in the game that is just going to win the game outright. And that's the way it went against Stats. It's the way it went against Bunny. Yeah, in game number 1, he just seems to navigate aggressively so well with his unit movements. It's just beautiful to see.
And yeah, Cure is really bringing such an impressive display of power here. And with Maru already out of the tournament, you got to wonder, like, okay, is there anybody that's going to be able to stop him? So we did have this turret thrown down here. And look at this. He gets the kill over there. Is he just going to do a push?
It's looking very similar.
Yeah. And I mean, I got to wonder, this probably was coming no matter what, but when you see the turret come down, you're like, well, that's less energy on that Raven now. I hope you're happy you killed my SCV. Anyways, I'm going to come in here and disable all your tanks and overpower you now.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. The Raven is going to get back in time to try and help with this push, but as you said, considerably less energy. And Cure coming in like this with 3 Ravens, all very high on energy. Interference Matrix already researched and kind of mirrored builds. The issue here for Bunny isn't necessarily that he's going to be killed, but he knows he has to forfeit this position, and he cancels the 3rd command center on the high ground. Cure back at home, building his 3rd CC on the low ground at the expansion.
Yeah, so basically that expansion was stopped before it could ever even start. And you know, with the number of amount of Brave energy over here, I mean, it's going to be extremely difficult to ever get in here. Now these Reapers come in. You don't normally see past, you know, what, like 6 minutes like this game, Reapers ever getting value, but here we are, 3 kills already.
I just love the way that Cure is playing right now.
So he killed the SCV that was making the command center. So, I mean, Cure, if this position keeps up, he's going to be eons ahead.
He's still pumping out Vikings 2 at a time as... Oh, that one's actually in range. Bunker has to get salvaged there for Buddy. And every moment that Cure just parks his army here, unless he gets completely disabled and Bunny's able to overrun him and take a massively favorable trade. And this is just basically money in the bank. You know, Cure, actually, I think he's recognizing,
Dude,
you know what,
so
the
good.
time is done. This is enough value. I'm not going to overstay my welcome. I'm going to go home right now and try and defend.
This is actually so impressive.
It's so smart.
Because as we saw the Viking count get higher and higher, it's like, oh, you're probably not going to be able to, you're going to lose all that stuff. But he knew the exact second to get out. This is an escape, by the way, with no medevacs.
Yeah, and this is a little bit scary, though, for Cure, because Buddy might have a little bit of tit for tat coming in. Notice the paths of these armies. Is Cure going to be able to take a 4 in a position? Disables might come through. Actually, an armor shredding missile on all the siege tanks, and some big volleys come out of Cure. That was looking precarious to start, but the initial damage was huge. That big group of bio that Buddy had assembled just got vaporized by the siege tanks, losing every single Marine.
He could actually land the Vikings on that if he's fast enough.
He doesn't need to. He has the vision right now with the siege tanks. Bunny, it looked like he might have been able to mount a pretty powerful counterattack, but Cure just absolutely stopped it in its tracks.
Cure is playing just so perfectly. It's kind of crazy. Okay, well, look, he does get a lot of kills on SCVs, but the SCV count is still way ahead. By the way, look at the mini-map. That command center is not landed. He did not lift it off during that push. Bunny was so preoccupied. There's no way that that just now finished building. That had been started a long time ago. Now there's a counterattack coming in here.
Air superiority going in the favor of Cure. He's also the only player where the Raven's still around. And keep in mind that the Marine count was completely reset in that last attack between Cure and Bunny. So Bunny is really going to be trying to struggle to hold on against this follow-up push by Cure. And look at him just navigating this perfectly. He scans, he sees the positions of the siege tanks, just maneuvering around the map, trying to find some sort of opening, because if Cure is able to basically siege up in a position where he can force Bunny to basically take a bad fight, it's gonna be game over. The army supply already keenly in favor of Cure, and with 7 Vikings in total on the map, so I think maybe like 3 for Bunny, there is some significant potential for Cure to just push across the map and get something done. And look at this scouting Marine.
That was crazy.
I mean, the game
Did he actually see it?
He did. He stimmed the Marine. He's checking which way it went, and he confirms that the medevacs, at least for now, are moving back. Cure just has such an unbelievably good read on this game.
Okay, there's another drop that's going to come in. So he saw that earlier, but he wasn't able to identify, okay, did it turn around or not? Most of the army here for Cure is in the middle of the map. Army supplies are even, by the way. The supply lead for Cure is in workers.
Armory very late for Bunny as well, so upgrade differential going to be a pretty significant window for Cure should he decide to try and hit a 2-2 timing. And Bunny, I think right now, you know, you have stabilized a little bit. The fact that you're both macroing up on 3 bases for a considerable amount of time means that the margin of advantage Cure had built up earlier, although it remains, it's a significantly smaller portion of the game overall than it once was. So Bunny, maybe if he's able to find some damage with these drops, could get some counter damage in and equalize. It certainly seems to be the play that he's gunning for, with these medevac groups kind of moving across the map. But Cure with his standing army right now, it's still just in a very good position. Vehicle weapons completing now, 2-2 almost done as well. And Bunny really hasn't been able to find any holes in the armor of Cure.
Yeah, the one good thing Bunny has is that he's kept control of this little high ground plateau. A little bit of a counterattack coming in here. And clearly there's just enough. He scans and sees, you know, 3 tanks in total with some Marines to boot. So, you know, he's not able to get much done there.
Yeah, Cure having that sensor tower just basically guarantees that if the drop comes into the third base like that, he will be able to rally the reinforcements to defend. But
in the main as well, there's a tank and there's submarines here too. So like, I think he might be able to handle this as well. Now both armies are going by each other. Taking a look at this drop in here. Calmly, Kure just sieges up another tank.
He sees a drop.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is going to be a base trade. He's going to go and try to repair this planetary and just let it get off as much damage as it can before it inevitably falls. Meanwhile, the third base has already been dislodged. The drop, nothing's happening. In the main, it's not happening yet either. Bunny's going to try to come forward. I just don't know that there is anything that Bunny can do. There it is, GG.
Wow.
Kure is bulletproof.
Bunny tries to go for the base trade, but the defensive setup for Kure back at home is impenetrable. He handles the drop in the main, in the third base. He handles even the army trying to push up the natural expansion. I feel like I didn't watch a StarCraft game. I feel like I just watched like Magnus Carlsen in chess.
Yeah,
just absolutely dismantle someone.
It was so impressive.
And it was so technical. It really felt like chess moves, all the way from the initial push with the siege tanks to cancel the third base on the high ground, regain control of that position, delay the expansion, and then at the perfect moment, retreat when he knows that Bunny has finally mustered enough to unseat him from that position. Just a beautiful day from Kure in TVT and in TVP. It almost felt flawless.
Right, over to the interview. Congratulations, Kure. He says thank you. That was incredible. Seems like you played perfectly today. Your Cyclone play was on point. Your decision making was incredible. How do you feel? So season 1 and 2, I lost to Maru. After I saw he was eliminated, I feel like this is my chance to actually win the GSL. Since I knew Maru's not here anymore, I felt much more confident. Both Gasato and JYP could not stop singing praises to you for how well you were playing. It looked like you were playing very comfortably, as if you were just playing it from home. So I don't know if I've ever been this relaxed or this comfortable playing in an offline matchup. But after that big event in Riyadh, Gamers 8, I think there was a turning point for me. I think my confidence level has risen. Seems like you've got a goal to become a champion for the season. Yes, since Maru's not here. Oh, sorry, are there any players you're watching out for now that Maru's gone? So far, Hero's played very well. He's very smart. He has a tricky way to he approaches the game, so I'm definitely watching out for him. Any shout-outs to the fans? Although I played well today, I'm not 100% satisfied. I still play a little bit better from home. So I'm going to focus more and try to clean up my play even further. And hopefully I can reach perfection.
That was one of the most perfect. I thought the interview was over. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're fine. The builds you used against stats, they were quite unusual. Is that a one-off, or is this going to be a pattern we're going to see emerge here from your play in the matchup? I'm using Ravens pretty often against Protoss, but it didn't work that well. But I think the way that Stats approaches the game, maybe this is a viable strategy, and it didn't pan out. All right, thank you. Whoa, they closed that graphic out fast.
Yeah, my goodness.
I'm actually like laying back. I've got cucumbers on my eyes. I didn't know we were going to come back onto me.
I was just going to say, like, he played as close to perfect as you possibly could, and then he's just like, well, it wasn't my 100%. I can do better.
It would not be a pro gamer interview if they didn't say, I'm still disappointed in my performance today, and I will try to play better next time.
I mean, that was so good.
It was like insane how well he played. It was so good.
It's like the one thing that went wrong was the proxy barracks at the start against Stats, and he still won that game. And then he basically just played flawlessly from then on out. That was insane. That was some of the best play I've ever seen from Kure, and he's already like a perennial top 4.
Quick break, guys. We'll be right back.
Anytime, any place, anybody, it don't matter, anywhere, any day. Anytime, any place, anytime, any place. Where you at? Anybody, it don't matter. Any day. Anytime, any place. Yeah, you know. Anybody, I'm right here. Any day. Anybody.
Tell me if you do or die in another paradise. Our bodies doing time. Tell me if you wanna bite. Getting weaker and weaker, falling deeper and deeper. I know it's right. We're not hiding our feelings. When we're in it, we're in it. I know it's right. Taste on my lips, do you wanna sit? Getting high. Feel fingertips, never losing grip. Now we cry. Getting weaker and weaker, falling deeper and deeper. I know it's right. We're not hiding our feelings. When we're in it, we're in it. I know it's right. Tell me if you do or die in another paradise. Our bodies doing time. Tell me if you wanna bite. Getting weaker and weaker, falling deeper and deeper. I know it's right. We're not hiding our feelings. When we're in it, we're in it. I know it's right.
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내게
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그너는 푸른
칠성사이다. 똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내게
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그너는 푸른
칠성사이다.
우주급 텐션, 최고의 토킹. 핫식스 토킹.
경이롭고
책임감도 있고 대가를 바라고 저도 말 안 해도 아시겠지만 저랑 똑같은 대답이 나올 것 같긴 해요.
악질한
사람들 등 쳐먹고 다니는
못된 짓은 다 할 것 같아. 수밖에 없네 뭔가 개구쟁이 개구쟁이인지라.
Today's matchup. Cure. Stats. Nightmare. Bunny. Round of 16. Group B. Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
Welcome back. Cure survives. Now it's all about elimination. Up next is Nightmare versus Stats, our first PvP of the season, to see what that looks like in our current patch.
I feel like it hasn't, of all the matchups, I think PvP's probably changed the least.
I think so.
In the current patch, but the map pool's a little bit different. There aren't too many maps with high ground expansion, so One Gate Expo might be a little bit more precarious depending on how the picks and the bans go. But there are some units like the Immortal, for example, the Shield. I feel like if you go for an Immortal all-in now in this patch, it does seem a little bit stronger. Now that the Shield, once it pops, absorbs the first damage instead of it also hitting the actual shields. I hate that they have like the regular shields and then hardened shields, and they keep saying shield, and it's like, which one do you mean?
Yeah.
But we're gonna go to Solaris, Alcyone, and then Golden Aura.
Yeah, let's see what this looks like. I think these guys are both very strong at PvP right now. Again, very exciting to see Stats being back here. He is a very methodical player, but PvP functions very differently than the way he could play PvZ and PvT. Anyways, let's get into it.
Macherino Esports, Nightmare. Guangdong Freaks, Stats.
A lot of support for Stats.
Yeah, a lot of love here for Stats. Well, I mean, this guy was such an icon for Protoss, and he was kind of showing everybody that there is a whole other way to play the race, almost like you're a macro Terran. And so, it's been very cool to kind of see exactly how how long that would last. And now that he's back and he's active again, will that style hold up? And frankly, I think this group is a tough group. It's kind of hard to call where his skill's at, because the Terrans here have been so good. But I think Nightmare is a very good litmus test for this.
Yeah, Nightmare's been playing quite well on PvP in online tournaments recently, at least from the games that I have watched. He seems quite solid, and Stats historically has really been struggling mostly in PvT since coming back from military service over, I guess it's been almost a year now, since I think he got out in November, if I am not mistaken. And it's been a kind of a long journey back to being competitive. He's been able to qualify for Code S, which says a lot. That is not easy to do now that it's top 16 after taking such a long hiatus and a military break. But it does feel like he's kind of following the same arc as a player like Sue, who was another, perennial finalist in all sorts of different tournaments. He was really the king of second place for a very long time before finally picking up a championship. But he came out from military service around the same time as Stats and also kind of struggled to really get his footing. He once again is qualified for Code S, but both of these guys are just really... Oh, Stats actually picks off the scouting probe there from Nightmare. Maybe some jitters.
Yeah, that's actually pretty big.
But I do agree with you that this is a litmus test, is going to be a much better way of seeing where Stats is at than before, because really it's been about the journey for him this past year in terms of regaining that past form, the same way that Sue is trying to regain his form. And if he can showcase some good games here in PvP and potentially win against Nightmare, he really just has one PvT series to find his way back into the top 8. It is doable. And
so we're going to have that Nexus start down here on the low ground. The Sentry is being hidden very deliberately here by Stats. Up here onto the high ground. As we have the Nexus also start over here for Nightmare. And it looks like it's going to be a pretty slow start. Nobody doing anything too dramatic right now in this PvP.
Oh, and I like this opening for Stats quite a bit. Normally, if you're going for a fast expand like this one and you're trying to play safe, you will go for just 4 or 5 gateway units, but Stats actually going for 3 Stalkers and 3 Sentries before Warp Gate. So
yeah,
he's going to be quite safe. Nightmare has to be a little bit careful depending on where Stats positions his units, although he did hallucinate, so only has 2 force fields available.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's anything that Nightmare can do with those Stalkers, but a bit of an honesty check. You know, are you being too greedy? It's always worth it to have these moves that come out where if the other player is being insane and is doing stuff that they shouldn't be able to get away with, then you just get the punish. And if not, you go, okay, back up.
And in addition to that, too, being able to see that it is 3 Stalkers and 3 Sentries for Stats here right from the beginning with an expansion, it eliminates a lot of the possibilities of aggression that Stats could be going for earlier in the game. It means that there isn't a Dark Shrine on the way. It means that almost certainly there is no Oracle along the way, so Nightmare can play a little bit more greedy back at home. Those 4 Stalkers, although it might seem small, them just poking up the ramp and getting a good look at the Protoss army on Stats' side of the map, actually getting a lot of scouting information for him, and this is the kind of the way you have to play it if you go for a 4 Stalker opening, because your hallucinated Phoenix Scout, such as this one, is a little bit later.
Now the tech is mirrored. They're both going for Blink, but there's a 5-worker lead here for Stats, now a 4-worker lead. So you can see he's sort of organized his build order to be a little bit more econ friendly here, and he's going to promptly take a 3rd base.
Yeah, PvP meta, at least in Korea, recently, from what I've seen, has been a lot of 2-gas, occasionally 3-gas openings, with a lot of Blink Stalkers, a lot of Zealots, and very fast expansions, just emphasizing the minerals. So Stats now is going to add 2 additional gateways behind this, but Nightmare not going for that 3rd base. He wants to get some damage done here with Blink.
Okay, well, he's going to come in right now. Guardian Shield is triggered. And Blink is going to be done first for Nightmare. So I think this will be a forced cancel.
Guardian Shield, moving forward with it. You really feel those extra 2 seconds that you get from the patch right here. Just waiting for that to expire, but Stats has to be careful. That is a lot of Blink Stalkers coming in from Nightmare. The force fields are quite good.
Yeah, taking a little bit of extra damage there. And now these pylons are going to go down. And I mean, Nightmare is just pressing his edge here. I can't say I blame him either. I was wondering if it might be worthwhile for him to try to blink into the main, maybe with like a hallucinated Phoenix to spot or something like that, but it looks like he's not going to do that. He's going to back up instead. The 3rd Nexus is taken again here for Stats, now at the same time that Nightmare is also expanding. But if Nightmare can sweep around here and do another big shot, and it looks like he's actually trying to fake that.
Yeah,
the
look at
hallucinated
this.
Phoenix is actually just a bait, so he can come in here and get the deny on that Nexus.
That was killed. That wasn't canceled.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is minus 400 minerals. Now, Stats does have a small window to try and get some damage done on these Stalkers, but only 1 falling. And the resources lost right now is so vastly in favor of Nightmare. This early pressure paying big dividends for him in this PvP as Stats not only cancels the Nexus, but also loses 500 minerals in total, basically thrown away there. And that's not even counting the shield batteries and the pylon on the low ground as well.
So, I mean, Nightmare is playing a pretty masterful game here. There is going to be a counter punch here by Stats. I think that Nightmare should still be ahead, although the angle could be a little bit uncomfortable. Let's see how far he can push in there. Guardian Shield is triggered. Nightmare is going to continue to just press forward with the aid of that battery. Stats shimmies away and then gets into actually a better angle by a lot. I'm a little bit alarmed to see that Nightmare stood his ground for that long out there. Some probes were killed by the Adepts that came in, but overall, this attack was brushed off, and it seems like Nightmare is basically ahead on every metric.
Yeah, I think Stats trying to go for that push there at the 3rd base was really to open up an avenue of attack for the Adepts and the natural expansion to get some harassment done. But now he's going to meet Nightmare's army here in the middle of the map. Nightmare has a Warp Prism, so right now it might be quite even Stalker versus Stalker. But once these additional Stalkers warp in, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nightmare just try to start blinking forward and actually killing the forces here of Stats. As that's exactly what he does. Stats running all the way back home. Those Stalkers so low on HP, and I think this might just be a killing blow.
Yeah, Nightmare's going to move down here and be able to basically meet this army as it tries to retreat. And now that Stats basically has to hold his ground, but I don't know that he can do that because he's basically driven a wedge here in between the third and the main. He blinks in again. The damage is very punishing. And even with a battery, well, remember the battery? Never mind. All right, GG, Nightmare gets that kill.
That was a masterful PvP from Nightmare. I mean,
yeah, I mean, he got his advantage. He pressed it forward. I loved the faking of the hallucinated Phoenix to make it look like he was going to blink in the main, because I was saying a second ago, oh, yeah, it might make sense to do that, but actually he set that up really nicely to get another punish on that Nexus, which, by the way, was not canceled. It was killed.
Yeah, Nightmare basically won that game with the early pressure, canceling the Nexus on the third, killing the pylons and the batteries there as well, and then with that beautiful maneuver navigating around the north side of the map and sniping the second follow-up Nexus. As you have a resource loss differential in a mirror matchup, any mirror matchup at all, and you're going to be playing on a knife's edge, but in PvP, Blinkstalker versus Blinkstalker, if you're down like 6 or 7 Stalkers because you lost those Nexi, it's a Nightmare situation, and that's not a, I guess it is a play on words, but I didn't mean for it to be, but I mean, Nightmare just absolutely capitalized. He recognizes it, he goes for the killing blow, and that's him up 1-0 here against Stats in the elimination match.
All right, guys, we're gonna go into map number 2 now. Nightmare with a 1-0 lead versus Stats. Again, the loser is knocked out of the GSL.
Macherino Esports Nightmare. Guangdong Freaks Stats.
Okay, getting into this game. Nightmare, I think he played a really good game. It's also funny, Stats really went back to just Stats things of kind of gradually getting to third base, trying to stay ahead. I feel like Stats' style in general is one of the harder styles to be consistent with. When he was on top of the world, it was really remarkable to see him kind of parry everything, continue to develop, and then basically win with a more sophisticated economy and army against these players that were just running around trying to shut him down.
Is he saying hi to me?
It must be, man. I love watching you like become confused by seeing yourself in the side set. You're like, wait a
second. That's me they're talking about, maybe, Tassels.
But, you know, it's a hard style to pull off when you play really defensively. Because you basically have to have a perfect game. If you slip up somewhere along the way, you're going to get punished. And we're kind of seeing Stats slip up somewhere along the way in these games. Will we have a more decisive Stats, maybe even a cheesier Stats? I do feel like most of the time you have to have the complete picture as a player. You got to know when to do the crazy cheese, but you also have to have very solid fundamentals and macro styles that you can bring out as well.
Yeah, Stats, when he was at his absolute peak form a number of years ago, was one of those players that, as you said, had pretty much the best all-around defense at all. But occasionally he would spice it up, he would mix in some cheeses, and it just made preparing for him a little bit harder. But now it seems like, you know, coming back from military service and trying to get his head in the game again, he's just defaulting to exactly that defensive style, because it is kind of, I agree with you that it's hard to try and play kind of a catch-all style that can parry truly everything.
Yeah.
It's difficult if you're a Terran, Zerg, or Protoss to play that style instead of going for aggressive mix-ups. But I think that Stats is just trying to focus on this one style because he's had limited time coming back from military service. It's hard to master both offense and defense at the same time. So I do like the approach in that way, but as you said, it does make it a little bit easier for opponents to read him and potentially, you know, take some risks that could pay off in a Best of X series against Stats as a player.
Well, we've got these two Adepts coming up here. The Probe is ready to block this, so luckily he doesn't even commit all the way up. I was going to say, is he going to guess if he can get in or not? He didn't have vision up on the high ground just yet. Nightmare's got an Oracle coming along, and so the builds are now taking very different trajectories. In game one, we had, for a little bit, mirrored tech, but it was really the earlier Nexus from Stats that gave Nightmare the opening. You know, in a race where you're both even, sorry, where you're both even, an investment in another base will allow that other player to maybe have an opening to do some damage. Here, it's going to be two very different techs.
Yeah, Nightmare going for the Adept harassment into an Oracle expand. Battery going to get dropped here in the main base once more, and I actually don't recall if we had a shot of a battery in the main mineral line. I want to really take a look at that.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually either.
Okay, well, he does see the Oracle now. Adept's coming into the natural expansion. They canceled that Shade too, and actually Nightmare showing a lot of respect. Not going into the main base right there.
That's some real restraint shown there. He's going to come back through here once more.
Yeah, potentially
basically
trying to catch.
Scouting.
Right. Scouting, and also I think he was trying to catch. Oh, he's going to get it.
Oh!
Nice play there by Stats. I believe Nightmare was trying to catch some of the probes that were transferring in from the main base. You know, he's like, I look at like I'm going north out of the natural expansion and going back home, but instead I just kind of sneak back around and get the probes. But that time, absolutely didn't pay off. And losing the Oracle like that is really big in an opening like that one. I mean, I don't want to say there's no excuse for it, but it's the whole purpose of this delayed natural expansion here for Nightmare is to get that Oracle out, to potentially get a couple of probes, and then as the game progresses, if that Oracle stays alive, Stats constantly has to have a small number of Stalkers at home, not to deal with, you know, harassment on the probes getting killed by the Pulsar Beam, but because of stasis wards. But you also get that Oracle Revelation coming in for scouting. You know exactly how your opponent is building up. You're able to rely on that Oracle for ZT and thus delay your robotics facility as well. So Nightmare going for a one Oracle opening and getting immediately shut down with, I think, basically no damage. He might have gotten one probe. Is just not a good situation for him. So both players not going to expand to the third base, but Stat's going to be a lot more comfortable to play this game knowing that he sniped down that Oracle.
Okay, so we've got more development here. Now, when you see that gateway up there at the top there from Stats, that's telegraphing a push. But it's 3 base to 2 base, so it's like, how would you push a guy? You spend all that money on the Nexus. Obviously, eventually, the income will kick in and you'll have more, but it would seem like if he was to try to do this right now, I don't think this would fare too well.
I think Stats was anticipating Nightmare going for a really fast third expansion, possibly at the linear base, and then
ooh, hello.
Stats can come in with that warp in at the top side, potentially get a lot of damage done, but Nightmare actually just going to go for the gold base. I like that play a lot.
I think he's going to spot this hidden pylon and gateway.
The Adept spotted that one a little bit earlier there, the ones that shaded into the third base, so Nightmare just goes for the finishing blow. And Stats, I wonder when he's going to scout this gold, because if it goes unseen for a considerable amount of time, he might have kind of a bad read on what the game state is.
So, yeah, I mean, any map with a gold base, you should always be checking your side and their side, but especially their side. But I don't see that happening just yet. And basically, if they get a gold for a longer period of time, you should be worried because they're going to be much more competitive than you are economically.
Yeah, the Hallucinate Phoenix checked every possible expansion except for the gold base.
Yeah.
You know, he did see that there was one mineral patch mined out between that third, but I don't know if he actually noticed it and he recognizes that it means a gold base is here. Stats might just think he has to defend on 3 bases and win this game. In fact, I believe he actually might have stopped probe production here. So a little bit of a misread.
Right. So he did the recall to get all his probes over there. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. It does appear like he's basically bracing for impact, and I don't think impact is coming anytime soon here.
I love this play. Oh, he's going to get the Observer, too, adding insult to injury. Some probes will get taken down here. I imagine Nightmare's just going to pick off a couple and then potentially go for the recall. This is good harassment coming in. I'm so surprised he did not recall those after killing like the 4th probe.
Because once you actually recall on the Nexus over there.
Oh, that's right. It's on cooldown. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot.
No, I mean, I guess he's just going to have to sacrifice those Stalkers to come in and try to do some damage. He does kill some workers. Keep in mind that, like, right now, workers, it's 56 to 49. And Nightmare has the gold, Stats doesn't. So, like, Stats has been played pretty badly, and a lot of this just comes down to incomplete scouting. Now, I think he may inadvertently spot this base over here.
There's no way he knows. I mean,
no, he doesn't know. Well, maybe he suspects it. Who knows?
But if he did, he got to check it now. Okay, he sees the probes. He saw the probes.
Did he see the probes?
He should have seen the probes.
You would think he would edge in then and kill the probes.
Oh, my God. Okay, so finally Stats realizes now probes are going to go down here at the third base of Nightmare. Link coming through, but the attack coming in for the top side. Nightmare might just try to pounce on this. We'll see.
Good moving back here. Meanwhile, these Zealots are just shredding up this base down here. It's all about buying time at this moment. Now, Stats sends a couple of Stalkers over there to hit the gold base. Meanwhile, these Zealots are getting log jammed.
Oh, that's a big recall.
Warp Prism!
Warp Prism's going to get taken out. Nexus should get sniped by those Stalkers, their final blows. As Nightmare's counterattack will finally get cleaned up here from Stats, but I think Stats would have loved to just, you know, ramp up the pressure over there.
Yeah,
onto Nightmare. I mean, he does get the Nexus, so certainly some damage found. And I think his position's actually improved a lot with that catch, but still the worker count's very low here for Stats. Nightmare now trying to retake another expansion, going for the triangle third.
Yeah, the army is considerably bigger here for Stats, but if Nightmare can rely on harass, maybe he can just kind of keep the opponent a little bit busy. Now that you can really feel the pain of that Stalker cooldown, a couple of them get eliminated over there. The third base, the new third base finishes, and it's just Stalker. Well, hold on, he's going to get an Archon now as well. I was going to say just Stalker Zealot for a little bit, but we're seeing the rest of that tech get incorporated. But it's undeniable that Stats has a bigger and better army. Unless Nightmare gets a really good engage, like at a perfect angle, I think this is going to be too tough. Oh my God.
Oh my God, the force field coming in too. That was not where you wanted to blink, Nightmare, as the armies collide in the middle of the map, but Stats had pretty much the optimal engagement there, catching all of the Blink Stalkers. Before we started this, I think the army supplies actually had come close to equalizing.
Yeah.
But what a moment there for Stats, a lucky break. Or perhaps he was planning on that all along, trying to shoo those Stalkers away into the corner. In any case, a tremendous victory for him on the battlefield, and I think he might be able to push that into a win now, just waiting out this overcharge.
Yeah, he's just going to be patient. Wait for the optimal moment to try to come in and do the damage you want to do. He should be able to kill that Observer that's over there as well. A Warp Prism's going to come in to help reinforce. Warp Prism's on both sides, in fact. And I mean, I'm kind of feeling like Stats wants to pull the trigger here.
I think he almost definitely will. Zealot count and Archon count very high here for Stats, and with a Warp Prism now flanking the rear, reinforcements are going to be quick to come. No battery overcharge anymore as the armies collide. So many Archons here for Stats. Not all of them firing here as the Stalkers try to blink to make way, but the arc is just massive. The army supply is huge.
And Stats winning this game in a very Stats-esque way, just through sheer patience. Nightmare's trying to hang on. He's trying to use whatever angles he can get here. The Archons are starting to lose their shields, and with that, the position is gone. That's it, GG. We're tied up 1-1. It's going to be game 3 to settle the score. And we'll find out who actually gets eliminated here.
Kind of a wonky game there.
Yeah.
With that gold base, Stats not necessarily being aware of it, but finds it, and I don't know, he seems like he might be a little bit upset that he didn't have that read. He looked a little bit pouty. I think he opened up the replay and it's just like, how long did he actually have that gold? Oh, I really should have spotted it.
Well, I mean, it's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, I mean, any map, especially mirror matchups, gold bases are very tempting to take because it's such an easy way to get a lead, and the fact that he scattered everywhere but there is a little bit concerning. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, still, he was able to come through the win. So I think one of the players might have been requesting a pause, and
yeah,
it's a good time to take one. 1-1 here in a PvP with the elimination match coming up. One of these players is going to be sent into the Netherrealm. Another one is going to be trying to fight against Buddy. It's the Netherrealm, man. You're getting all Yu-Gi-Oh up in here. That's a Yu-Gi-Oh reference, right? I'm not
I was thinking Mortal Kombat.
Know.
Isn't there a Netherrealm in Mortal Kombat?
There's Netherrealms in a lot of games, I think.
Yeah.
But it's going to be...
it's never where you want to go, though.
No, it's not where you want to go. And Nightmare just really trying to survive, fight for his life. As I said, he's been looking really good at online tournaments recently. He's having pretty much the best GSL showings of his career so far this year. He's not getting into the round of 8, but he's getting top 16s. He's getting top 12s. He's doing it consistently. And I think he would really love to cap off this year with finally a breakout performance into the top 8. But Stats really fighting back, even after not scouting that gold base, which surprises me, you know? That went up for, I want to say, a couple of minutes, and then Stats was still able to, maybe through a little bit of fortune, a little bit of luck, find his way into a very winning position. But, you know, the defense in macro back at home, it was still very solid.
It was. It did seem like Nightmare was never prepared to deal with the consequences of being scouted. Like, he did have that for long enough. He probably had enough to actually fight that. But the angling was very good from Stats. He got in there, killed that off, and it was a pretty straightforward game from there on out.
Yeah, it was really a smart play also, just blinking 5 or 6 Stalkers to actually just focus down that Nexus during all the following battles, because at the end of the day, if those Stalkers on the other side of the gold base don't kill the Nexus, and Nightmare is able to resaturate that base
and
while he's taking
base.
the 4th, then suddenly, you know, he had a worker lead, I believe, during a lot of that still, or at least it was very close, but the mining was not optimal.
No.
And so if he had that gold base, he's able to resaturate it, then suddenly his army supply is not going to be dwarfed by Stats in quite the same way. And he has winning chances, but instead, Stats just making some very good reads after, you know, a little bit of a lack of scouting and able to bring it back. But I think if he wants to win this upcoming Game 3, he's going to have to tighten things up just a little here in PvP, because Nightmare is a very dangerous opponent and certainly does not seem to be afraid of shying away from some kind of cheeky builds.
Golden Aura for map number 3. We're finally getting our 3rd game here with these two. It's been a lot of fun to watch the Stats continuing to stay conservative and grow. Nightmare with some pretty risky stuff he's trying to pull off.
Macherino Esports Nightmare. Guangdong Freaks Stats.
Okay. Let's see if Stats decides to mix it up or goes for the same opening, because Game 1 and Game 2, he did the exact same thing. I think it was a 3 Stalker, 3 Sentry opening, all 6 of those units coming out before Gateway, or before Warp Gate, excuse me. And that's about as safe as it gets if you're going to try and go for an expansion. But, you know, if you're going to mix up a build, now seems like a really good time to do it from Stats' perspective, because Nightmare is probably anticipating that Stats is going to play the same way. At least I would if I was in Nightmare's shoes. And so if you're Nightmare, maybe you take a little bit of a gamble. You go for a little bit more greed. Maybe you take a faster 3rd base than you would otherwise, or maybe you go for some kind of proxy aggression and try to play into the fact that Stats is going to be going for that Nexus, seemingly no matter what.
It does seem like Stats is one of those players where he's so known for going macro. It kind of reminds me of the old days with Idra or Idra, where it's like people just sort of knew this guy is a macro powerhouse, but he doesn't cheese. And so you see all these players play around that.
Yeah, I certainly did.
Yeah, I did too back in Brood War when I played with.
I gambled. I rolled
where
the
I was
dice.
like, well, I mean, I'm not going to go toe-to-toe in a macro game with you, so let's build some buildings right outside your base and see what happens.
Absolutely.
But it does seem like Stats can fall into those trappings as well, right? Where, you know, because he has such a straightforward approach to the game, it opens up an opportunity for some of the more risky angled play that could come in and get a kill quickly. It can end up impacting him.
Yeah, but also, you know, opening with 6 Gateway units like this before Warp Gate is such a safe style that you got to think a player of Stats' caliber, he wouldn't be doing this build unless he was confident that he could parry pretty much any attack that Nightmare is going to throw his way. So, not a big surprise to me that Stats is kind of going for the same thing once again. And so now my question is, what is Nightmare going to try and do to see if he can pick this apart? He is opening with 2 Adepts moving cross maps. So far, Stats' Adept defense has been on point. But no Stargate follow-up from Nightmare just yet. In fact, no Nexus either. I see the probe now moving to the natural expansion, so finally that will go down. But a little bit later than Stats is.
Okay. Adepts shade forward. The probe's there to plug up the entrance. We've got 2 batteries on the way right now for Stats.
I love this opening that Stats is doing. I mean, if you're a Protoss player at home that's watching this and is struggling in PvP, which I certainly am watching this is a build that I'm going to go out on ladder and I'm going to start using, because I can't tell you how many times I've died to all-ins or builds that are just designed to pick apart on expansion. But Stats with this, 6-unit style before Warp Gate into a battery. He always has the minerals floating to throw down his second battery up and block should Adepts come in, because he delays the Twilight Council just slightly. It's so safe. And the fact that a player of Stats' caliber is relying on this all 3 games in an elimination match, best of 3 PvP, shows that he has a lot of faith in the defensive capabilities. And Nightmare, once again, with the same edge that he had, I believe, in Game 1, with a slightly faster blink because he is cutting a few more corners. He's not playing quite as defensively as Stats is. I wonder if he's going to be able to find the same kind of damage that he did when he went for that timing attack on the 3rd base.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I mean, Stats is just, staying back, being calm, being patient. By the way, it is a relief when you see a player solve something for you. You're like, oh, there it is. The answer was somewhere. We just had to wait for someone else to find it.
It was also me watching Creator, Group A, PVZ.
Like, oh, thank God.
It's one of the beautiful things of having GSL back at the start of a new patch. Is actually, hold that thought, Nightmare getting a ton of hull damage in.
Yeah. See, Stats got a little greedy trying to get that one Adept kill. There's that 3rd Nexus. There it is. Both sides. Still with mirrored behavior.
Yeah, Nightmare this time seems like he's a little bit less keen on the high aggression, but I like that he's kind of feigning the same pressure. He moves out at about the same time with Stalkers and Sentries, similar to the way that he did in game number 1, trying to force Stats into a position where he's going to be potentially delaying his Forge, maybe adding in a couple extra batteries to try and defend, but Stats so far seems to have a good read. Not quite falling into that trap, as both players instead are just going to macro up, but at the end of the day, Nightmare's Forge will be a little bit faster, and I got to give credit to him playing this way with this slightly feigned aggression style. It's one of the advantages you get.
And so Nightmare's still roaming. He's still trying to find some opportunities here. This could be a really weird angle for an engage.
Yeah.
You can see the Guardian Shield is triggered there as the rest of that army snakes around to the other side. Could he get over here where the Nexus is?
I feel like he cannot get the deny here, but maybe you could try and set up a play with these 2 Adepts going into the natural expansion or the main.
This is actually crazy. Hold on. I think he actually can get this.
It's close.
This angle's a little bit better here for Stats.
Yeah, and he should have another quick warp in right there with the Nexus, but it did open up these Adepts coming into the natural expansion. They're going to get a handful of probe kills, especially if the focus firing is good.
Meanwhile, a fight over here on the bush. It seems like Stats was winning, but maybe actually Nightmare could take this. It's kind of hard to call.
Oh!
There were also Adepts over here. We didn't even catch that.
Got 5 kills going down on Stats' side of the map, but he's equalizing it. But actually getting a couple more over here. Adept going to go into the main base, no batteries, so should be able to get 1 more probe. That's going to be 7 kills. I love that Stats went for that counterattack. I didn't even have that on my radar.
No,
I was so focused.
I didn't see it. Well, I mean, the Observer didn't have it on his radar either. We totally missed that. Is there continued counterplay here?
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. This happens sometimes.
It's embarrassing.
There's a lot of things you got to juggle at once in this game.
I like Stats' position. He's up 7 workers. He has 1 more Stalker. Upgrades are a little bit delayed, so there might be a timing window for Nightmare where he's able to eke out some advantage, but oh man, there's no probe here again. That's going to be more probes going down. Should Stats have committed, I think he easily could have gotten 2 or 3, but instead just wants to play it very safe and conservatively. Powering up with additional gateways on both sides. Both players opting to play 3 gas styles, so a little bit more Stalker heavy, not going to be pure Zealot coming in, but inevitably we'll have some Archons added into the mix. These Adepts do get cleaned up here on the top side.
Okay, so these...
Oh, he's looking to catch them.
Yeah, he's going to try to catch these stray Stalkers. I think there's enough escape routes. He should be okay.
I think you blink once more and then recall, but...
Probably, yeah. Now, is Stats going to try to seesaw back on the map? Or no? So here's the 4th base, by the way. Nightmare could not have gotten a 4th base yet because of where Stats' Stalkers were, but maybe he'll try to take one now. Conversely, it's also possible that he just tries to power up and maybe go for a push.
Yeah, he's actually taking the 4th gas, so he's going to be playing a little bit more Archon heavy than his opponent here, and that makes me think, you know, increasing the amount of saturation on 3 bases with the delayed 4th, that Nightmare is probably going to be gearing up to be the aggressor here on Stats' 4th expansion. Army supply is very equal, though. There's more pylons coming in now for Stats as his economy is almost fully online. Those gateways are not going to be idling very much from here on out, so I love him preempting those 4 pylons in case he has to micro on the map.
Well, there's no way Stats can get up there. Quick blink in there. And I mean, we're just seeing sort of this arms race of units build up. More gateways are coming down. A War Prism starts over here for Stats. That could be, you know, the signal that we're going to have an actual push out here, or maybe like a warp in inside the main, and then he tries to break the 3rd or the 4th base. But it does look like there's going to be an opportunity for Stats to truly initiate.
I'm surprised we haven't seen a Warp Prism come in from Nightmare just yet. Just the Zealot Stalkers, some Archons now being morphed in.
Ooh, he's going to keep going forward here. Was it an overextension? You can see the Zealots come back on this side for Stats.
Yeah, Stats was actually thinking about taking a fight there, but I think he has it on his radar from that Hallucination Scout earlier that Nightmare is going to have an upgrade advantage window. So for Stats, I think you pretty much want to play defensively up until +2 ground weapons is finished. You do not want to fight into someone with higher upgrades than you with the same unit set. It's generally not a winning formula, as Nightmare's +2 ground weapons going to be finishing in just a moment, and Stats just really content to kind of macro up back at home. But once he has that +2 ground weapons, I would not be surprised to see him get a little bit more aggressive on the map, especially with his Prism.
Yeah, it's been a pretty dramatic build-up here. We're just now passing 10 minutes. Both sides are nearly maxed out. This angle looks a lot better here for Stats. Is Nightmare going to commit? Oh my God, the arc is insane.
I love Nightmare blinking in, sniping the Warp Prism there. The reinforcements are going to be a little bit faster here for Nightmare as a result. And actually, this angle is so good for Nightmare. The Archons get picked off, and now Stats is on the run.
It was crazy. It looked like it might be really good for Stats for a second there, but we're going to see that final Archon fall. The Warp Prism's been sniped. Where exactly is Nightmare going to zig and zag to?
Seems like he's going to focus on this 4th base, chases that pylon. Might get taken out. Luckily, there's a 2nd one powering up that battery overcharge, but Stats actually going to take the fight right here in this concave. He thinks he has the better angle and wants to fight before reinforcements come in, but finally, those reinforcement Zealots enter the fray. Some Warp Prism micro attempted here by Stats. Does he have enough? I mean, the shield battery, it is doing work, but that's a big Zealot warp in.
Yeah, it looks like Nightmare's got this with a great warp in there. Really good execution on his micro when he had that engaged. He knew exactly where to target, exactly when to pursue, and also when to back up and reinforce. And I think from this position, we should slowly see Stats begin to crumble.
Yeah, once this 4th base gets taken out, there's going to be very little economy left, and the standing army here for Nightmare absolutely dwarfing Stats. 65 army supply to 30.
Yeah, he forces him to blink away and instead goes for an easier target down here at the 6 o'clock base. The Stalkers are going to come out. They should be able to blink once more, but they just don't have the muscle here to take this on, and I think we're basically seeing Stats process the loss. That's it, GG. Nightmare is going to that final match against Bunny.
Stats eliminated here. First one out of the group. Group B elimination match. I like the playstyle that he brought to the table, especially in the early game, that safe expansion style, but Nightmare just taking some key decisive fights, both in Game 1 and Game 3.
Yep.
A lot of respect shown by Nightmare.
Well, Stats, you know, he's still got it, but it does seem like he's not able to navigate these extremely difficult games all the way to where he wants them to be. You know, he is still playing the conservative style, macro Protoss, scouting Protoss, defending Protoss. Not the kind of craziness you'd see from like Hero or Parting or other players in the past, SOS as well. But, you know, he's not able to get across the finish line.
All right, going to be taking a look at the matchup. I thought for a second we might be going to the commercial
I was like, did we just go to a commercial? What's going on here? All right, guys, we're going to be right back. It's Nightmare versus Bunny coming up.
toes, 'cause I can't go. You never talked about it, said you had to leave. It was over within minutes and I couldn't speak. Like that you're gone, something went wrong. Choked up, you made me feel so small. Now I just need an answer. How'd you have to go? No, I can't let you go. No, I can't let you go. 'Cause I can't let you would you still be there when the world falls apart? Would you find me? If this were the end of our love, would you still be there when the world falls apart?
똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성사이다 제로.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내가
청량한 이 순간 칠성사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그 너는 푸른
칠성사이다. 똑같은 하루에서 답답함을 빼면 더 청량해질 거야. 제로처럼. 우리 없어도 되는 건 빼고 살자. 칠성 사이다 제로.
하늘은 우리 향해 열려 있어. 그리고 내게
청량한 이 순간 칠성 사이다로부터.
함께 서 있는 그 너는 푸른
칠성 사이다.
우주급 텐션 최고의 토킹 핫식스 토킹.
경이롭고
책임감도 있고 대가를 바라고. 저도 말 안 해도 아시겠지만 저랑 똑같은 대답이 나올 것 같긴 해요.
찌란
사람들 등 쳐먹고 다니는.
못된 짓은 다 할 것 같아. 밖에 없네 뭔가. 개구쟁이인지라.
Today's matchup. Cure. Stats. Nightmare. Bunny. Round of 16. Group B. Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2023 GSL Season 3.
All right, this is it for Group B. Nightmare versus Bunny. This is actually a rematch, by the way. Bunny did 2-0 Nightmare. They were good games by Bunny. I think they were games that Nightmare could have won, especially Game 2.
Yeah.
In that series. But let's see. I think Nightmare's probably going to be feeling very warmed up now that he's, beaten stats. He already got the losses out versus Bunny out of the way. Bunny, by the way, has got to be hurting from that loss versus Cure.
Yeah, that might be a momentum changer right there. I mean,
yeah.
Cure just, I don't want to use the word dumpster, but I'm going to use the word
he
dumpster.
Got dumpster,
it
dude.
Felt like he got dumpster. That was about as impeccable as a TVT as it gets.
He got owned. It was crazy.
They're going to make a low-light reel of Bunny's career, and it's just going to be that series, nothing else.
Low-light reel.
But Bunny, he still looks really good. I love the builds that he did in TVP in his first series against Nightmare. If you guys missed that one, I absolutely recommend you go back and watch it. I mean, how often do we see Drilling Claws Widow Mines into a hidden expansion? It was so cool. But, some of those builds, they can catch you off guard, and it's hard to have a lot of builds like that facing somebody twice in a row in best of threes. And so Nightmare, he got thrown off quite a bit that first series. If he can try and get a better read on the game in this one, he absolutely has what it takes to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bunny's definitely the favorite here, but an upset could happen. Let's get into this final best of three.
Macherino Esports, Nightmare. Mystery Gaming, Bunny.
Bunny's putting an invisible DT in a headlock in that picture, if you look closely.
Some of the poses we have this season are fun. I was sad that Scarlet lost on day one, not just because it's Scarlet losing, but also she looked like she was doing like a karate chop almost. And one of the shots that we had, I was like, oh, I'm not going to see that again. I could have made so many more puns if she went to the round of 8.
Some Nightmare support here in the audience. Another great sign.
My goodness. He arms crossed, nodding his head. He knows.
He knows.
He knows how good these signs
prepared.
are. He's raising the bar. If you want to come down to the studio, you better drop by the print shop before.
The sign meta
Hire a
has been
graphic designer. All right, so this game starting to pick up speed. Bunny going for a one-base tech build. Double gas in the second depot there on the wall to block any scout that might come in, but Nightmare right now does seem he's playing no scout. On some of these new maps like Alcyone, actually, the tile set is so dark on the mini-map that it's hard for me sometimes to tell if an area of the map has been scouted or not, because, it just slightly gets revealed. But yeah, no probe scout coming in from Nightmare. My old man eyes, they can't handle it.
Your old man eyes?
My old man eyes.
So, I think if Nightmare has a little bit cleaner execution, he should be able to hang with Bunny.
Yeah, and I feel like even the execution wasn't that bad. He just
well,
got thrown off.
Game one, Bunny was just, I mean, that was, I think, for me, the most impressive game of the day.
Yeah.
Was seeing the Widowmine drop into hidden base, where I'm like, well, you just really understand the Protos's imposition very, very well. But, like, game two, I thought Nightmare had a real shot.
Ooh, really fast battery here from Nightmare.
There is a Cyclone being made.
Yeah, just the one Cyclone. Not getting reactored out. And an Armory again. Is he going to do the same thing?
He could.
Very curious about the way this one is going to go.
Well, he might just think he can win the same way. I mean, one of the interesting things you can do, or one thing to find out is where pros see themselves and the other players. Because sometimes it's, you know, it's ambiguous to us, right? It's like, well, they both seem pretty good. It should be a good match. But then when you talk to the two of them, it's like, oh no, I'm way better than him, or I'm way worse than him.
Yeah.
Like if I win, it's a fluke. But I wonder if maybe Bunny perceives Nightmare as a step down from him.
It's possible.
You know, and you know, Bunny is one of these guys. He gets deep enough in GSLs. He really does play for keeps. Like he wants to try to win the whole thing. And so maybe it's like, well, you know what? Do you have better build orders that you want to bring out later?
God, this Reaper is so good, by the way. Just parking it there. He knew it was unrevealed coming into the main base, and so he just comes in at a key timing where he knows Protoss is going to have their tech pumping. And it's Drilling Claws again.
Yeah, yeah. Now maybe he does this without hiding the base. Maybe just make a third there. I don't know.
Watch it like expands to Nightmare's Gold or something. Yeah. Builds a planetary fortress there. Something crazy. But I love this build. You know, we really don't see Drilling Claws that often in TVP, and now Bunny is doing it in 2 consecutive series.
But, you know, maybe we will see it pretty often. I mean, when I look at it, it seems to be pretty strong. They get in there so quickly.
It's almost guaranteed damage with the first drop, and I often hesitate to call anything guaranteed damage in a game like StarCraft 2, but your reactions have to be so fast as Protoss to avoid that. I mean, the first burrow just hits so quickly, and usually it's at a very fragile time in your development as a Protoss player where we have, you know, 2 or 3 Stalkers in the main, 2 or 3 Stalkers and maybe a Sentry in the natural expansion. And those small groups of units, if they were together, yes, they could probably kill some of the Widowmines, but they're never going to be together because you're trying to intercept and slow down a non-Drilling Claw drop. Although Blink is very fast this game. Nightmare was chrono boosting that a ton, so maybe he's actually going to be able to intercept this. That was 5 Stalkers in the main base.
All right, well, this Medivac's going to come in. Stalkers are ready.
Is he going to see it, though?
I don't know. Okay, all 5 get the shot off. I thought for a second some in the back were not. But he gets 5 kills with the 2 shots from the Widowmine here. So, like, can he do it again?
One more Widowmine coming into the natural expansion. Observer getting chrono boosted out.
Pretty brazen in the approach.
He tried to put it into the assimilator in time to dodge the shot and just barely couldn't do it. And this is a much better defense from Nightmare than in the previous game. Only 6 probes in total going down. The Observer was a lot faster coming out. The follow-up Roabay is also good. Actually, the Sentry is going to spot the Widowmine. Oh, Nightmare, please pay attention. No! Oh, wait, it's on cooldown. What am I talking about? I'm so dumb.
We got more gates.
Clueless.
Well, he might actually do another drop. He's just going to keep pelting him with these Widowmine drops. And it looks like he's going to set up for a push behind this. There was no third command center, right? I don't see one. Yeah.
It's going to be a 2-base push again, probably.
Yeah.
Bunny's just really powering up with all these barracks. Actually, that's at least 1 more barracks, I think, on the low ground. 2, in fact, so. Yeah, Bunny's looking to try and get some kind of damage done.
Oh, wow. Wrong direction.
Yeah, it's tough to make that read.
Well, they're just not going to be in a good position now. And keep in mind, this is all going to be hinged on the fact that a drop can, a push can come in post-drop.
Oh, my.
Oh, my God. Oh, and he gets 2 more and just picks them back up to drop somewhere else. What am I looking at over here in the middle of the map? Another big hit over there.
Oh, it's at 1 HP. It's at 1 HP. Nightmare he very well might have thought that he killed that. at 1H.
Well, you know, I don't know if that he's keeping track of this.
No.
Dude.
Oh, this recall could be, is that the Observer? I mean, the mines are going to hit again. That's 18 probes.
Yeah, I mean, that's so many kills. Now a drop in the main.
Oh,
my
no.
God.
Make
This
it
is like,
stop.
this is like we're watching StarCraft version of Hostile, the movie. Like, this is a gore film.
This is abuse.
This is rough.
29 probes killed. And you know what? If Nightmare had those Stalkers in position, if he didn't go down to that
to
6 o'clock position to intercept the medevac, if he was able to catch it, I don't think this would have happened. Instead, it's just a snowball effect where we have almost 30 probes getting down. These Widow Mines have gotten more value than pretty much all Widow Mines in existence.
Oh, this is crazy. Yeah, that's it. GG. Whoa.
Was Reddit right?
Oh my God, the Redditors were right.
I can see the post right now.
Imagine we started the GSL with that game.
Imagine it's just this group. Imagine
how many of you guys would have been looking in the mirror being like, I am a prophet? Like,
you know, that hurts though for Nightmare. It hurts so bad because the initial defense from the first drop was much better, I think, here than in the first series. You know, I think he lost, what, 5 or 6 probes in total instead of, what was it, 8? I remember he's a little bit fuzzy, but the Observer's already out. The idle time was significantly less. And then he just fell apart from the follow-up drops. The Stalkers were grossly out of position. He thought he had the correct read on where the Widow Mines were going in the medevac, and he did not. And in fact, those Stalkers could not have been further away from helping. And then just a domino effect of Widow Mine drops going from the natural to the third base to the main base.
I would do the same build again.
Yeah,
the same. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, Nightmare is not good at stopping this. Granted, I think this is one of the hardest things in the early game to deal with is Widow Mine drops as a Protoss. Anyways, forget what I said. We're just going to start. Right into the L and into the game.
Is that what you were saying?
Hmm?
I missed that. The L?
No, the L and the GSL.
Esports Nightmare.
I was visualizing myself losing a lot of probes to Widow Mine drops on ladder after this. I was completely lost in thought. Just a sense of dread coming over me.
Yeah.
Mystery Gaming, Bunny.
Look, it's really hard to deal with the early game Widow Mine drops. I mean, it is one of the harder things. Not all matchups are made evenly at certain points in time in the game. I know that people think that maybe they should be, but that's really not how you're going to get an interesting RTS. In some matchups, one person is naturally the aggressor or the one in control while the other one's defending, and a lot of times those roles switch as the game gets further along. But Protoss is very much on the receiving end of the Terran if they get a third base quickly.
Yeah, in the early game, but
yeah, and the Widow Mine drop, look, like you have to get your workers away.
The thing is, if it's just a regular Widow Mine drop, I feel like unless you're doing some crazy play as Terran to pull the Protoss' attention away and you succeed at the pro level, it very rarely gets much damage done. You know, usually each Widow Mine will kill 1 probe. You're going to get idle time, and that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Against a normal Widow Mine drop. But the fact that Bunny is going for Drilling Claws and, in fact, the upgraded new patch Drilling Claws where, you know, their survivability rate's going to be a little bit higher because they do unburrow more quickly now than they used to. It completely changes the dynamic because even if you see the Widow Mine drop coming in, unless you, like, the window of response time that you have to have as a Protoss and also the margin of error in terms of where your units are placed becomes so much more narrow, especially once those medevacs start getting, in addition to 2, you know, 3 or 4 Widow Mines in total garrison, because then, as we saw in, I think, the first series, there was a Widow Mine drop with 4 Widow Mines. The probes were getting pulled all the way into the main base, and the medevac boosting is following them. And the Widow Mines burrow so quickly that you're almost guaranteeing you're going to get more shots. Now, in that game, Nightmare had some really phenomenal control in that specific situation to section off the probes that were being connected with the Widow Mines as he was rallying back. And so the damage wasn't too substantial from that specific drop. But again, the margin of error just gets so much narrower. And You can just see the damage compound very quickly. The initial defense from Nightmare in game number 1, it was on point. He didn't lose too many probes. Blink was done in a great amount of time. But then just being out of position with the Stalkers for the follow-up drops. And Burn Widow Mine drops. If they get momentum and they are non-stop coming, you basically... It's almost impossible not to fall apart.
Yeah, it's tough. And, you know, I feel like that was such domination. I just don't see the incentive in even trying something different.
Maybe it's going to come in game 3 if we get there.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because you also have to consider that Nightmare is going to be playing with that in the back of his mind every single game for the rest of this series, right? So he's going to be changing his playstyle just a little bit, and you know, maybe he's a slightly less greedy because he's just trying to preempt and defend against a Burrow Widowmine drop that might come. And in fact, this Hellion Scout is so big. We have 4-gate Blink coming in with a pretty significant probe cut right now.
Man, lock your doors, close your windows, man. You do not want to let this Hellion just get in like this. Gets a second kill. I mean, these are not even kills you're supposed to have factored in as a possibility because you're supposed to have a cleaner play than this.
He's going to get the third one, too.
Yeah, and it will be killed off.
That is one of the most value Hellions I've ever seen.
Yeah, you never see that.
He scouted 4-gate Blink. He saw the Nexus in the natural expansion was not building probes when the Hellion came in. And he got 3 probes in total, which is just crazy. So Nightmare is going for pretty much the same thing that he did on Solaris in the first series. He's going to go for this Blink pressure.
Are we going to get the bunker in the main? A lot of times that's one of the ways they set up to kind of just counter this entirely. You need about 3 tanks to stop this rush. Yeah, you need one in the natural, one kind of at the ramp, and one closer to your command center. And if they're all covering each other, you're fine. One of the ways to speed things up for the win for the Protoss is to snipe the first tank.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes you'll see players like MaxPax or Hero, they will blink in with about a dozen Stalkers once they get a dozen, and they will take fights that on paper aren't even very cost efficient. You know, they're bleeding out a lot of units, they take a ton of hull damage to kill 1 siege tank, and you might be scratching your head as to why. But the reason is, exactly as you put it, if those siege tanks, if they all go down, then suddenly the Stalkers just reign supreme. So we'll see what Nightmare's able to get done. Another siege tank is about to pop from that factory in a moment. Adepts at the natural trying to divert the attention of Bunny and successfully do so.
1 tank's about to pop. Stim is halfway done, but you know, luckily in this case the Terran's on the right side of the map, so the add-on's not just out there. Here we go. There's that blink in.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that you know, with the SCVs pulled and everything else, can he actually get out in time? I guess he could pick up with the Warp Prism, but you know, that was a lot of Stalkers killed.
It was a lot of Stalkers killed. I think he's kind of threading the needle in terms of whether it's worth it or not. And it wasn't cost effective, but just as I said, that's both siege tanks dead. So now these Stalkers can start to reap the rewards
they can
of that dive.
Out micro the Marines. And you can see, you know, that it's hard for the Marines to compete with the Stalker range, but eventually they can push them up against the wall. Another tank's out. Stim's about to be done. The Marines become much more fearsome when Stim is available.
Yeah, I feel like Stim being done pretty much spells the end.
Oh, this is crazy. Is he really going to go for a drop right now? Isn't he like so vulnerable on his base?
And a 3rd command center. This is brave. I think he is just exceptionally confident
this
now
is
that he
crazy.
is Stim. But yeah, this is insane. And Raven is going to spot the Warp Prism. Meanwhile, Nightmare is doing the same transition that he did in the previous series, going into 7-gate with charge in a late 3rd base. So he's trying to bait the Terran in a way to attack into him, but this drop, he is not going to be expecting this Tasteless.
Wow. All right, he even leads with the medevac here. And, I mean, we see a recall is triggered. Oh. These are actually not...
Oh, no.
I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I'm like, oh, yeah, no, those Stalkers are very, very badly damaged. And actually,
oh,
no, if only there was a term to capture the idea of what happens if one pylon powers everything, I could have articulated so much more easily.
Somewhere in Canada, Artosis is waking up in a cold sweat.
Artosis woke up after he peed the bed. Something happened out there.
Nightmare is in a world of trouble right now, Tasteless. It's going to take a miracle for him to come back in this one. You hinge on getting a lot more damage done if you're going to play a 4-gate Blink style that is this aggressive. Now, I mean, Max Packs when he does it, by the way, I love the Warp Prism powering up the Twilight Council to keep charge researching. That's very smart.
Very sexy.
But generally, you know, if you play the Max Pack style of 4-gate Blink, you're constantly producing probes. You're taking a 3rd base. You're eventually taking a 4th base, and you're going for this Mass Gateway Army. If you play the Hero style of Blink, you're doing what Nightmare does, but you generally get a lot more damage done. And so Nightmare right now, he's kind of in the middle. He's taking the 3rd base, but the probe count is low. He's taking a lot of damage, and the Gateway Army that he has is unbelievably weak to what Bunny has in store. I frankly do not see a way that he holds this push.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to have to, or this game is just going to end. The tanks are going to be falling. There's a 3rd one here in the back. He does fraction off a couple more units over here.
It's actually a really good engagement.
Yeah, I think he actually does hold.
What a jinx by this caster. This guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I mean, that engagement coming in from Nightmare was perfect. The siege tank line was not.
The tanks are very poorly positioned. You need to have the tanks in an unreachable location or far enough along that the Marines can actually capitalize on their ability to kite. And I think what happened was he had 2 tanks right out in the front. And, you know, you need at least, like, you know, 3 volleys, 4 volleys from the tank before, you know, they start to really do what they need to do.
I mean, genuinely, that was such a scary proposition, that Terran push coming into the natural expansion like that. I don't think Bunny was quite anticipating Nightmare having so much with the way that he overextended with the Marines. I mean, the connections coming in from the Zealots on the siege tank from that 3rd were so huge. And now Nightmare can actually get on the offensive a little bit. Some SCVs going down here in the 3rd base. He's going to try and retreat. If I'm not mistaken, no concussive shells. Yeah, it's just now researching, about halfway done. So a lot more of these Zealots are going to be able to escape from that 3rd base. But still, the Bio Army here for Bunny, it's very strong.
It looks like he will be able to gun down this Warp Prism. It's just not quite fast enough. Now, with the 4th base close to finishing here for Nightmare, will he be ready for the next attack? The army is a little bit bigger overall here for Bunny. And I mean, with a lot more Marauders in here, it's a lot more punishing when you try to retreat.
Yeah, but I don't think we have any ghosts on the table just yet. Production has just begun. These Templar, that one, 90 energy. Storm is researched, right?
It is done, yeah.
Just missing an opportunity for a really big Storm. I mean, what are these Templar doing?
Done? What am I watching? I swear to God, I saw the upgrade go on the ticker earlier.
Those are 2 Templar with high energy that did not storm.
Okay, so he actually has it. All right.
Imagine this with just 2 more Storms, though. It would have been a much better fight here for Nightmare.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like there's enough muscle here from the Terran. He can try to power through another fantastic Storm. That actually might be enough to drive him back. He dives down on the tank, but does that result in a bit of an overextension? There are still more reinforcements trickling in. It does seem like Nightmare's very fragmented, right? Like he's got units here, there, and everywhere, but not all of them are fighting. Another tank sieging up over here just so he can hit the units over on the stairs.
Yeah, and now there isn't much more splash damage left for Nightmare, so these engagements are going to be really tough. That High Templar even with no energy whatsoever. And Nightmare can't afford to warp in more Templar for time, so this Bio is just going to reign supreme here at the 4th base, and I think Bunny is going to be going to the round of 8. I mean, this is looking really bad for Nightmare.
The Bunsters got this. There's no way that I think Nightmare can recover.
3 Zealots, 1 Stalker. No Templar warped in, so Storm isn't even in the cards.
Yeah. This Nexus is going to fall, and it's just a skip and a hop away from there to get to that natural.
Skip and a hop, like that with Bunny. He's going to bunny hop his way to the round of 8 here.
Medevac's very low on energy, but still, it seems like there's just enough with the kiting that the Protoss over time will be whittled down to nothing.
Yeah.
And from there, it's just going to be the Nexus and the probes falling.
Wow. What a game for Bunny. And he's going to be going into the round of 8 again here.
Terrans win today.
Yeah, Bunny just looked really good, and Cure on top of the world. Not a bad showing there for Nightmare, but I think in both series, the Burrow Widowmine with Drilling Claws was just so problematic. And then in neither of the games on Solaris was he really able to get the substantial damage done that he needed with the Blink Stalkers. So a pretty good showing for him, but going up against one of the best Terran players in the world in Bunny, and he's not able to make it to the round of 8. So another top 12 performance in GSL for him. Really a solid year overall for Nightmare, considering his past, but It's time for us to hear from this guy right now.
오늘 두 번째는 8강 진출 이뤄냈어요. 소감 한번 들어보겠습니다.
Bunny, you've done it. You made it to the quarterfinals. You got out second place. Congratulations. Thank you. How do you feel? From the beginning today, my mouse wasn't working. I had a hard time focusing in the game. Regardless, I prepared very hard, and I'm very relieved that I made it in advance.
아쉬움들은 좀 뒤로 한 채 이번에는 더 높은 곳에 올라가야 되잖아요. 그래서 이제 오프라인 모델 GSL에 대한 욕심이 굉장히 클 것 같은데요.
Since you didn't have a satisfying result by getting out first, excuse me, from the previous season, what is your goal for this season? I want to make it to the finals of this GSL. I'm trying to regain the form I had in my heyday, but we've had a recent patch, and we have all these new maps, so I need probably a little bit more time to acclimate to the changes. After the patch, what is your thought on Terran? So I don't feel like I have a deep understanding of the patch just yet, but I'm enjoying playing on the patch. I like some of the changes. Which part do you find fun to play? I try to do a different build on each of the new maps.
오늘은 이제 프로토스전과 테란전을 치렀기 때문에 저그전이 없었는데
Also, busting down these Zerg players has been very rewarding.
적극적으로 쓰는 소위 상대 멘탈을 부셔놓는 플레이가 인상 깊었는데 이재선 입장에서는 이것도 좀 거의 정석에 가깝나요?
Today, it seemed like your play was everything seemed to really shut down your opponent, like psychologically.
입장으로 해도 리플레이를 봐도 너무 빨리 박히더라고요. 반응을 해도 터져 있는 경우가 많아가지고 근데 이게 사실 토스가 진짜 잘 막아버리면 힘들긴 한데 방송 경기이기도 하고 처음 오랜만에 쓰는 빌드이기도 해서 좀 주력으로.
If my opponent has an ability to defend my attacks early on, but then I think they have a chance. But the problem is it's so hard to hold these attacks, and so it's easy for them to crumble if I can just get in there and do my damage.
그 다음 텀이 좀 있어요. 근데 어차피 그 4차간 전멸 추적자 오는 걸 알고.
They're talking about the Ravens.
필요 없을 것 같아가지고 그냥 시도했어요.
자 이렇게 승일단에 좀 올라가게 됐는데요. 저 오늘도 많은 팬분들이 현장에 좀 찾아주셨습니다. 해외에서 오신 분들도 계시거든요. 자 오늘 팬분들의
So we've got so many fans in the studio. Many fans from overseas. Any words to them?
너무 창피하고 다음에는 그런 경기력 없게 준비도 잘하고.
I think I really embarrassed myself in that match against Kira. I looked pretty pitiful. I'm going to train really hard so that that doesn't happen again. I'm going to bring a second mouse, a backup mouse for this as well. All right.
All right, well, Kieran, Buddy, two Terrans advancing into the round of 8 from this group. I don't think this is really a surprise. Looking at this group coming into today, Kieran, Bunny are two of the best Terran players in the world.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Maru gone, these are basically the two Terrans you want to follow.
Yeah, it's this guy, these guys, Beyond and Gumiho left, right? So
there is some balance in the universe. When Maru falls out at first, then of course Cure and Bunny have to advance.
Absolutely.
And look, honestly, Nightmare and Stats, I think right now they are weaker Protosses.
Yeah, Stats in
like Hero, you know.
Stats in particular just really has been struggling in PvT since coming back, and you can really see that in his opening games against the TVP god Cure.
It was a bit of a novelty to even have him get this far. You know, I didn't know when we were going to have another Stats appearance, right? I mean, he's kind of from a different era, so it's always cool to see him back here. He does look good, but he's not able to close it out. Guys, we're going to be back with Group C on Tuesday, same time, same place. Dark, DRG, Estrella, and beyond.
Yeah, those tickets, I believe they go on sale tomorrow, if I remember correctly, 5:30 p.m. KST? I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, so make sure you get those tickets. It's going to be a really fun one. I mean, that's just a fantastic group. Another foreign legend coming in Estrella. Foreign Hope going to try and make it to the round of 8. And, I mean, Dark, Beyond, DRG. From top to bottom, I love this group. Dark, one of my favorite players to watch, barring none. And DRG really kind of having a renaissance again. Back in this more mature version of StarCraft 2.
I'm excited for Estrella to play. He's really been sticking in Korea, grinding out GSLs for a long time. He's in good shape. He always has a good head on his shoulders when you talk to him.
I think the last time that I saw him on ladder, he was top 8 on the Korean server, which is pretty impressive. I mean, there are some players that, you know, they grind KR ladder, but they actually leave GM to try and hide their builds a little bit more, so you can't find them on the list. But yeah, Stray is really far up there. So I'm looking forward to see what he brings to the table on Tuesday. I know he's been preparing a lot. He's going to have some creative builds. Should be fun to watch him play.
There's the information below at the bottom of the screen for how to get a ticket. You cannot get in without a ticket, so do buy them. They're very cheap. I think it's like $5 or something like that.
Something close to that.
But that's the system we're on now. I know that sometimes in previous GSLs you could show up. Now you have to get a ticket, so please do that. Yeah, I mean, great games today. Terrans win big today. But I don't think that Protosses are screwed yet, or we can't draw any conclusions just yet. I think it was kind of clear that this was one of those days that the favorites advanced.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to have 2 Terrans, a Protoss and a Zerg as the first ones in a round of 8. I like that balance so far. And Group C and Group D should be a lot of fun, too. We have Estrella playing, Heroes playing in Group D.
Yeah.
Many more Protoss chances.
Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here for this just another day here at the GSL. We'll be back Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. KST. I want to close the show out, but the Cranecasters are still talking, so.
It's okay. We get to hang out a little bit more.
We can hang out a little bit more.
I don't mind it.
But, yeah, I mean, great game. It's good to be back.
Yeah, the games are really fun today, and I want to see more of TVP on this patch with maybe opponents that are a little bit more evenly matched. I mean, Kira's going to dumpster pretty much anybody except Hero, I think.
We are finally able to close the show, guys. We'll see you Tuesday. Take care. Bye-bye.